Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Bunneh's Perspective, the series where I play a game start to finish while providing my personal opinion and insight along the way. Think of a Let's Play series mixed with a game review, but condensed and smashed into one video. In this episode, we're going to be playing the HD PC port of the legendary title, Resident Evil 4. This episode of Bunneh's Perspective took a very long time to create, involving more than 16 hours of raw gameplay, script writing, voiceover commentary, and of course, countless hours of editing. If this series is something that you enjoy, then please be sure to leave this video a like down below and subscribe to the channel with notifications on to see more content just like this. If this video hits 100 likes, I will play the game with the highest upvotes in the comments section down below, so please go down there and leave me your suggestions for future titles. Resident Evil 4 is a third-person shooter, action-adventure, survival horror puzzle-solving game developed by Capcom in early 2005. The game originally released for the GameCube, but would later be ported onto the PlayStation 2, PC, Wii, and even mobile devices. In March 2011, the game was remastered into an HD version and further expanded onto the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Nintendo Switch. The game has even seen a VR remaster and released onto the Oculus Quest 2 in late 2021. Needless to say, this game has seen some tremendous commercial success over the years with its massive track record of re-releases and ports as its proverbial resume. In fact, as of December 2021, the title has sold more than 11.4 million copies across multiple platforms. It has received extremely positive feedback from numerous sources over the years, and typically averages a score above 90%. Resident Evil 4 is considered one of the most influential games of the early 2000s, and is highly regarded by fans of the series as one of the best Resident Evil games ever made. Now, full transparency up front, I have never played this game prior to making this video. In fact, I've never played any of the games in the Resident Evil series, so I'm going into this experience completely blind and unbiased. I was of course aware of the legacy that this game left behind and how revolutionary some of the mechanics were, but not having played this game growing up removes the nostalgia factor and leaves the game completely exposed for what it truly has to offer. We start the game on normal difficulty and this really cheesy voiceover line plays.
Resident Evil 4.
What? Why was this line so poorly delivered? It's like the developers just passed the mic around the room until they found the guy with the corniest voice acting ability. An intro movie plays that catches us up to speed on some of the events of past games, which is fantastic considering I've played none of them. It basically talks about a secret viral experiment conducted by the international pharmaceutical company Umbrella. The virus spread to a nearby town named Raccoon City and dealt a devastating blow to its population. Upon hearing of this, the president of the US decided, "Ain't nobody got time for that," and bombed the shit out of it. Umbrella was pretty much finished after this point, and 6 years have passed since the incident. The game begins with the main character Leon being escorted into a rural town by two local police officers. The game doesn't specify what country we're in or where we're going, but given the Spanish music playing in the background and the accents of the two cops, I would say we're in Spain. The wiki page would later confirm this, so go me! Leon says that the president's daughter has been kidnapped and he's received special training and directive to rescue her. We drive over a bridge and arrive outside of a rural village.
Just up ahead is the village.
I'll go and have a look around.
Yeah, we'll stay and watch that car. Don't want to get any parking tickets.
Right. Parking tickets.
Good luck.
Jeez. Who are these guys?
Did you say something?
Leon.
Wait, hang on a second. Didn't Leon just pull out a satellite phone and hold it up to his ear? So why in the next scene does it have him in a video call facing towards a camera? The UI would suggest that the device he has is capable of video transmission, but the in-game animation and object model suggests that he's using a satellite phone. If we're going off the concept that he's using a phone that transmits video, then the transmission would look a little more something like this. And in case you were wondering, yes, that is my ear. I took a picture of my ear for the video.
Please like and subscribe.
Also, I want to point out that incoming and outgoing are one word, not two. And now that I've pointed that out, you can't unsee it.
Leon, I hope you can hear me. I'm Ingrid Hunnigan. I'll be your support on this mission.
Loud and clear. Somehow I thought you'd be a little older. So the subject's name's Ashley Graham, right?
That's right. She's the daughter of the president. So try to behave yourself, okay?
Whoever this group is, they sure picked the wrong girl to kidnap.
I'll try to find some more information on my end as well.
Good. Talk to you later. Leon out.
After all of the intro videos and cutscenes finish, we're finally thrown into the game. We've been given no instructions, tutorials, or directive outside of our mission objective to find the president's daughter. I later discovered that you can access the game's controls and bindings via the in-game menu, but I didn't know this at first and simply took a few minutes to figure things out for myself. Now immediately, I'm digging the tone of the game. The surrounding forest is dark and foggy, really driving home the survival horror aspect of the game before anything tragic even happens. While the graphics are certainly dated and by no means good by today's standards, they're still very serviceable. The art style of the game is extremely dark and grungy, which I personally think holds up better over time than many other graphical approaches. Keep in mind that this game originally released for the GameCube, so there were a lot of limitations and barriers for the design team to try to overcome. Some of these limitations really show in later portions of the game, but for the most part I think it still holds up really well. We approach the village for this short, ominous cutscene to play out. Whether it be scripted events, camera positionings, or audio cues, Resident Evil 4 does a great job of directing the player's attention to certain events to build suspense and anticipation. We enter the house and find a dude doing something to the fire. We approach and show him a picture of the president's daughter to see if he recognizes her, at which point he goes absolutely apeshit and tries to attack us.
Lárgate, cabrón!
Sorry to have bothered you.
Freeze! I said freeze!
We're thrown straight into combat and forced to take him down. Another short cutscene plays out, showing us surrounded by more crazy people, suggesting that we're about to have a fight in our hands. Hunnigan calls us on the ear camera because she somehow knows that something went wrong for some reason. We explain what happened, and she basically tells us to do whatever the hell we want because we work for the president, goddammit. America! Upon inspecting the body of the guy we just killed, we're told he's not a zombie, indicating that we may be dealing with something entirely different than we would have experienced in other games, if I had played any of them, that is. Upstairs we find some more handgun ammo, and I try to familiarize myself with the controls some more. I think now is the best time to mention that I'm using a PlayStation 4 controller to play this game, a game originally designed for the GameCube, and then later remastered in HD for the Xbox, and then ported to PC. If you think that's confusing and would probably result in some clunky controls, you would be correct. In fact, all of the controls in this game are made for an Xbox controller, and I have no way of changing that. While that may not seem like a big deal right now, it becomes a huge problem later in the game with QuickTime events, and oh boy does this game love its f***ing QuickTime events. We explore the house a bit until we find a window that we can jump through like a goddamn ninja. I think opening the door would have been much safer, but not nearly as cool, so I'm okay with it. Outside, we're forced to fight 3 more enemies, all with different weapons and attack styles. While I don't mind the combat in this game, it can certainly feel slow and clunky at times, especially since the camera only rotates so fast, and our vision is heavily restricted due to the over-the-shoulder third-person perspective. I take a lot of damage and miss a lot of my shots during this playthrough because of the clunky combat mechanics, but overall it's serviceable, and in many ways I think it adds to the game's likability. Rounding corners and approaching ominous sounds in the distance is made all the more suspenseful from the lack of visibility and slow movement, so all in all I can't fault the game for it too much. We walk into a nearby shed and see a typewriter and these brightly lit wooden boxes sitting on the table and overhead shelves. Typewriters are essentially checkpoints in the game and allow us to save our progress along the way. When you open up the menu to save your game, this very distinct music plays in the background that I imagine will be very nostalgic for some of you watching. Oh yeah, that's some good shit! As for the boxes, well, I'm no expert, but past game experiences would suggest that these boxes can be broken for loot, and if you can actually believe it, I'm correct. Breaking boxes, barrels, and other objects in the environment becomes a very common theme in Resident Evil 4, all of which are heavily telegraphed by their distinct graphical design and lack of baked-in shadows like other objects. These breakable objects often contain ammunition for our firearms, PTAs, which are the currency in the game, and herbs, which are used to restore or increase our maximum health. Moving forwards, we can hear a whimpering noise echoing from further up the trail. Upon approaching the noise, we find a dog caught in a bear trap and decide to free it. This small act of kindness serves multiple purposes, as it has a rather large impact on an encounter in the near future, but also introduces us to the concept of traps in the game. This is solid game design, Capcom. Nicely done. Shortly ahead, we find tripwire traps armed with explosives, and now shit is getting serious. We decide to save our ammunition and simply walk between the 2 traps, encountering another crazy villager with a pitchfork. Something I will say is that the character design in Resident Evil 4 is very good, but also very limited. Overall, there are quite a few different types of enemies along the way, but while playing through certain sections of the game, we'll encounter the same type of enemy over and over again. In fact, we'll see this same old dude pop up a few hundred times during this playthrough.
This face still haunts my nightmares.
Further ahead, we find another toll shed being guarded by this dude with an axe, and it was during this fight that I learned Leon's true combat prowess. For hidden behind the ever-accessible firearms, explosives, and environmental tactics was a system so profoundly awesome and overpowered, it cannot be described by mere words alone.
Roadhouse.
The roundhouse kicks in this game are incredibly over-the-top and hilarious. They don't fit the rest of the game's combat at all, and yet they're quite honestly one of my favorite aspects. They feel so incredibly impactful, and the sound design is just mwah! We loot the boxes, and I decide to examine some of the items in my inventory. There are 3 different types of herbs to find in the game. Green herbs are used to restore a small amount of health, yellow herbs can be mixed with green herbs to increase your maximum health, and red herbs can be mixed with green herbs to restore a moderate amount of health. Green herbs can also be mixed with other green herbs to give a similar effect. We decide to just use a regular green herb for now and press onwards. Upon walking through the next gate, we answer another ear camera call with Hunnigan, who sends us a Playing Manual 2, which is basically an instruction pamphlet on the game's controls. It was at this point that I realized I totally didn't read the Playing Manual 1, which could have been very helpful up until this point. As I mentioned previously though, the control scheme for this game is all based around an Xbox controller, and given that I was using a PlayStation 4 controller for this playthrough, this did me very little good outside of offering more confusion. Moving ahead, we're given the option to scope out an area before proceeding forwards, which I think is a really cool feature of the game that was really underutilized. The village is packed with baddies, and one of the cops has been clearly impaled and burned at the stake in the middle of the town, which doesn't bode very well for us. We work our way around the outside of the village in the attempt to stay as low-key as possible, but this time of peace is short-lived, as the moment combat starts, shit hits the fan, and apparently everyone in town gets the memo to kill us. This is the first real mob encounter of the game, and let me just say that fighting multiple enemies like this at once is both challenging and strategic. Most of the enemies are melee and slowly close the distance on us, but some of the enemies have these ranged attacks that need to be dodged or interrupted. During all of the chaos, one of the villagers lightly grabs a hold of our shirt collar, which apparently does a ton of damage for some reason. We use one of our marijuana leaves, and I mean green herbs, in order to heal up. Fighting the waves of enemies in this village takes quite a while and seems a bit overwhelming at times. At some point during the fight, a church bell rings out and all of the townspeople rush into the nearby church, greeting us with this Resident Evil intro text. Now, I want to point out that we're 25 minutes into the game at this point, and I've already went through numerous introductory cutscenes and tutorials, so why is this scene here? It feels really delayed and out of place considering we're this far into the game already. After the cutscene ends, Leon answers his ear camera to talk with Hunnigan again. We catch her up to speed on the death of the officer, and she tells us that we've got to get out of here, and to follow a trail by the nearby tower. Before moving ahead, we take some time to explore the town and look for goodies. I've played a lot of survival games in my day and understand how important it is to stock up on ammunition, meds, and money along the way. During my exploration of the village, I discover a shotgun on the second story of this building, giving us our very first new weapon to try out in the next fight. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it took me over 16 hours to complete Resident Evil 4, with a majority of that game time being exploration and looting. I plan on cutting most of this content out of the video unless it's a new experience or pertinent to the game's progression. So just know that if you guys see any boxes, barrels, shiny objects, or dropped items from enemies, I've most definitely taken the time to loot it along the way, I've just not included it in the video. At one point I find a spindle on the roof of this house, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with it yet. There's no value attached to it, and unless I plan on bedazzling my new shotgun, this does me very little good for the time being. After feeling accomplished at looting the town, I decide to climb this giant tower, shoot a chicken for no reason, knife the dead chicken for no reason, and find a note pinned on the inside of this wall of the tool shed. Notes like this can be found throughout the game and basically help to fill in some gaps in the storyline or provide some background information. A lot of the time these notes are instructions or orders from one of the game's antagonists to the enemies we're currently fighting. I don't plan on reading each of these notes to you, but I plan to include them in each of the slides so you guys can read them if you'd like. We load into the next area of the village and find the typewriter in the nearby toll shed to save our progress. Outside the shed, we can see this necklace hanging from a rafter over top of a nasty pole of something. Before I can really explore how to pick up this item, the village people start rushing us. No, not those village people. These village people. After the fight, I decide to try shooting the necklace to see what happens, which drops it into the nasty liquid below. We loot the necklace to discover a dirty pearl pendant, which I have no idea what to do with. We find a nearby note that says there are 15 blue medallions scattered around the farm and the cemetery, and if we collect 10 of them, we'll be rewarded. Challenge accepted, game. Challenge accepted. We loot some chicken eggs because we can, find the dog with some terrible pathfinding, and start shooting the hell out of the blue medallions we can find around the area. We do stumble into some more enemies along the way, but for the most part they're pretty easy to deal with. We find an ominous-looking wooden door that we're unable to open, and the game foreshadows that we could probably get past it with help from another person. We ignore it for now and press onwards to a different door. As we walk down this narrow valley, some of the village people decide to push a boulder off of an overhead cliff, forcing us into the first QuickTime event in the game. Now this should be easy to complete, as all I have to do is smash the X button and I'm dead. So remember before when I said that using a PlayStation 4 controller to play a GameCube game ported to Xbox, then HD remastered on PC for an Xbox 360 controller could lead to some clunky controls in the future? This is what I was talking about. The game is telling me to spam the X button, which exists on a PlayStation 4 controller, and my brain naturally begins pressing it without realizing it. It turns out that X is actually supposed to be square because X is not X on the PlayStation controller, but rather X is square on the PlayStation controller. I figured this out on my second attempt, but right at the end of this event the button input changes to left or right trigger, which confuses me again because the PlayStation 4 has either R1, R2, or L1 or L2. But the third time is the charm, and we manage to avoid the boulder on our next attempt. We walk through the narrow tunnel and into the next section of the village to encounter some of the same enemies, but with some different artillery at their disposal. These guys have sticks of dynamite that they can throw out the windows. Often. It's actually quite annoying because dodging mechanics in this game are virtually non-existent, which basically means you just need to keep moving in order to quote-unquote dodge. I'm of course very terrible at this in the early game and take a ton of unnecessary damage as a result. For the most part, we just avoid them and limp our way over to a nearby house. There's a lock on the door, so I decide to try and use my knife on the lock to break it, which actually works, surprisingly. Inside the house is another typewriter to save our progress and some ammunition to keep us going. I decide to use the first aid spray in our inventory to heal up, and upon stepping into the hallway next to us, we hear a faint thumping noise coming from another room. There are tripwire traps scattered around that must be shot from afar to avoid the splash damage, which is pretty straightforward but also kind of a pain because I hate wasting ammo. We explore the house a bit more before investigating the thumping noise and find a green herb hidden inside of a cabinet. After finding some more herbs scattered around the house, we decide to combine them together to create some super drugs! I mean mixed herbs. As I mentioned before, combining herbs in this fashion can have more powerful effects, and in this case the mixed herbs that we just made not only restore us to full health, but also increase our maximum health in the process. Given that I don't need the health right now, I'm just gonna bank this and use it at a later time. We work our way towards the thumping noise and realize it's coming from this wardrobe. In preparation for the worst, I decide to equip our shotgun and slowly approach it.
Little rough, don't you think? You're not like them?
No. You?
Okay, I have only one very important question. You got a smoke?
Got gum.
Perfect. The big cheese.
What?
And that marks the end of Chapter 1-1. Not sure why the game breaks up the chapters into sub-chapters like this, but I'm just gonna roll with it. The next sub-chapter begins, and we're greeted by Emperor Palpatine going on one of his power rants again. We're injected with some kind of booger substance and awaken inside of a shed handcuffed to the guy we saved.
Hey, wake up.
Ay. Crawl out of one hole and into another.
You want to tell me what's going on here?
Americano, see? Now what brings a bloke like you to this part of the world? Oh, hey, easy, whoever you are.
Name's Leon. Came here looking for this girl. Seen her?
What, are you supposed to be a cop or something? Nah, you don't look the type.
Maybe.
Okay, let me guess. She's the president's daughter?
That's too good for a guess. Want to start explaining?
Psychic powers. Nah, just kidding with you, amigo. I overheard one of the villagers talking something about the president's daughter in the church.
And who might you be?
Me llamo Luis Serra. I used to be a cop in Madrid. But now I'm just a good-for-nothing guy who happens to be quite a ladies' man.
Why'd you quit?
Phew, policia. You put your life on the line. Nobody really appreciates you enough for it. Being a hero isn't what it's cracked up to be anymore.
Used to be a cop myself. Only for a day, though.
I thought I was bad.
Somehow I managed to get myself involved with the incident in Raccoon City on my first day in the force.
That is the incident with the viral outbreak, right? I think I might have seen a sample of the virus in a lab at the department.
Hey boy, I'm not done. Do something, cop!
Fortunately, this time I was prepared for a QuickTime event and managed to press the correct button. Lewis decides to take this opportunity to escape in the chaos, with his motive still being unknown. Leon answers his ear camera and catches Hunnigan up to speed on the events that have taken place. There's a secret passage in the village and we need to head back there. As we walk towards this little window, a creepy dude in a trench coat says,
Over here, stranger.
At this point, my stranger danger alarms are going off like crazy. I don't think that we should follow this guy behind a damp shed in what equates to be the West Virginia of Spain, but who am I to stand in the way of progress? It turns out that this unnamed, unexplained creepy dude is the game's store, so to speak. He pulls open his trench coat to reveal his penis, I mean goods. Finally, those PTAs we've been collecting might come in handy. We browse the shop and see all kinds of awesome things to help us on our journey, but money and inventory space is limited. I decide to purchase the rifle and scope, because inside the shed we just came from I picked up some rifle ammo, which is typically a game's subtle hint that you're gonna need a f***ing rifle. We reorganize our inventory to fit our newly purchased items and spend the rest of our PTAs to upgrade our handgun's firepower. Next, we open up the sell section of the store, as the chicken eggs, spindles, and jewelry we've been collecting can be sold for more PTAs. We use the money from this to upgrade our handgun's fire rate, but unfortunately we don't have enough money to do much else. Bartering with this creepy dude becomes a very common theme in the game moving forwards, with a lot of time being spent selling, buying, and organizing our inventory. I plan on cutting most of these interactions out to save on repetition and time. We decide to save our game so I don't have to go through all this again if we happen to die, and press onwards. We're apparently positioned inside of a canyon of bridges and catwalks, surrounded by enemies. I decide to equip our newly purchased rifle, and oh my god, this thing looks sweet! Sniping in this game is very effective, but extremely clunky. There's no analog stick acceleration in the game, meaning that you can't smoothly pursue a target with your reticle. Anytime you press the analog stick in a direction, the reticle jumps a distance rather than smoothly gliding. To compensate for this, enemy hitboxes seem to be much larger than you would think, as I'm sure I've missed a lot of these headshots, but the game indicates that I've hit. We take out quite a few of the enemies before proceeding forwards. The enemies all funnel into some pretty tight areas on the level given its design, which makes the shotgun a really effective weapon to use. Some of the enemies are holding sticks of dynamite, so if we time it correctly, we can use this to our advantage and save some ammo. Inside this wooden chest is the emblem left half, which means absolutely nothing to me, but I'm sure it's important. Oh, that's right, this is a Capcom game. I forgot that Capcom loves its randomly named, unimportant items that happen to be super important. My god, I'm seeing flashbacks of Devil May Cry already. We plow through hordes of enemies using our shotgun and decide to pull off some more snipes from our new perch higher up in the canyon. In the distance, I spot another wooden chest similar to the one that we just looted, and I can only guess that it has the emblem right half that we're going to surely need in the near future. We kill everyone in sight and loot as much survival equipment as humanly possible along the way before I finally reach the other wooden chest. We approach this big metal door with a hexagonal shape in the middle of it, and I can only assume we're to combine the two halves of the emblem to proceed, and oh, yep, there it is. In the next room, we can see a shiny mask sitting on a shelf just out of reach. I try firing a round into it to see what happens, but it doesn't seem to do anything. I want this mask, people. It looks valuable, and I want more things from the creepy dude with the trench coat. We fight our way through hallways of enemies and ninja jump through this glass window for some reason. In the next room are two enemies whipping dynamite, and with a well-timed shot we're able to shoot the dynamite mid-air and blow it up to kill both of them. Resident Evil 4 definitely has a way of rewarding you for timing things properly and proceeding with strategy, as opposed to run-and-gun gameplay like other games. Little instances like this where you can take out multiple enemies with a single bullet rather than wasting loads of ammunition adds up over time. I certainly shot myself in the foot on multiple occasions by not taking advantage of these little moments or wasting ammo that wasn't necessary. Enemies are starting to dodge our shots now, as if you have your laser pointer on an enemy, they start to do this little side jump to make you miss. While this is frustrating, it's also incredibly good game design. Giving us enemies that we're familiar with, but changing their moveset and difficulty is really important for keeping things fresh. We come across the boarded up window with the shiny mask on the other side, and while these boards don't appear to be breakable, I decide to waste a round of ammunition to find out. It turns out that this is how you're meant to get inside, and finally taking the mask that we saw 15 minutes ago is so rewarding. We work our way deeper into what appears to be a small sewer or cellar with a ladder leading up to the surface. Before proceeding onwards, I decide to look down into the small pool of water below and see something shiny. The water appears to be full of fish, but they seem harmless, so I hop down. Leon apparently has bones made of adamantium because we drop about 20 feet straight down and don't suffer any fall damage whatsoever. We loot some ammo and PTAs and proceed up the ladders to the surface. Just outside is another pool of nasty water with a pocket watch hanging overhead. I decide to drop the wooden board to cover up the water to see if it impacts the loot at all, and sure enough, by doing this, we're given a brass pocket watch that isn't dirty like the last piece of jewelry. I can only assume that this increased its value, once again reinforcing that it pays to use patience and strategy in the game rather than rushing through full force. We disarm some traps along the trail leading out of here and proceed into the backside of this building. At the top of the stairs is a door puzzle. At first I thought maybe I need to scour the surrounding area for clues or hints on solving it, but it turns out that I just had to turn the orb until I matched the dragonfly-like shape that can be seen on either side of the door. We solve the puzzle with ease and loot an insignia key in the next room. Upon trying to leave the room, a cutscene ensues.
Nuestro jefe se cuidará de la rata. Si la plaga es mucho mejor que la nuestra. Tienes razón.
You carry the same blood as us, it seems. Nevertheless, you're an outsider. Just remember, if you become unpleasant to our eyes, you'll face severe consequences.
What? Same blood.
And that marks the end of Chapter 1-2. We basically only survived this encounter because the Emperor injected us with that booger earlier on. This big guy is basically letting us live for now, with the understanding that we're going to be turned into one of them eventually, and while part of me understands this, other parts of the story kind of crumble when more is revealed later. We save our progress and answer a call from Hunnigan on our ear camera. She tells us that there's this religious cult group involved called the Los Illuminados.
That's a mouthful.
We explain what happened with the big dude and press onwards with our mission. Before going down the stairs, where I think the game wants me to go, I decide to walk back in the door we come out of, which launches us into a cutscene against the big dude again. Now this cutscene was confusing on multiple levels, to the point that I thought maybe it was an Easter egg for older players. The big guy attacks us again, even though he literally just let us go the scene beforehand, and a woman in a red dress shoots him from outside to stop him. I'm guessing I would know who this woman was if I had played some of the previous games, but I haven't, so I have no idea what's going on right now. We find a note inside of this room that wasn't here before, basically explaining that Lord Sadler has given instructions to keep us alive for the time being, and that Lewis should be kept from us to prevent cooperation between us. There's also mention of a third party that may be trying to stop their plans, but not much is known at this point. We head downstairs, examine everything that we can for information, and loot anything that we find. Stepping outside reveals a brand new enemy, and holy shit, he has a fucking chainsaw?! So chainsaw dudes can apparently one-shot us, and the other normal enemies are moving much faster than they used to. Also, the dudes that throw hatchets are basically on par with the skills of Hawkeye, so the difficulty is ramping up quite a bit. We managed to down this group on our second attempt, but I have the feeling that this won't be the last time we encounter chainsaw enemies. Walking down the path, we encountered this woman in a shed that yells, and attacks us with a knife. We roundhouse the shit out of her and press onwards. This group of enemies ahead seems like the prime time to use our very first grenade, although I mistakenly make the assumption that Leon can throw like a man and not a wimpy little bitch, thus wasting our first grenade by throwing it 3 feet in front of us. The second grenade seems to do the trick and we load into the next area. I find myself in a bit of a pickle as I'm getting low on ammo and my health is virtually non-existent, so I use our very first flash grenade to see what happens. With everyone blinded, I attempt to run past, somehow surviving this enemy's attack and run straight into the church. We limp our way to the typewriter and save our progress. In the very next room, we find some TMP ammo, which gives me the hint that I should probably buy this gun the next chance that I get. Hanging from the ceiling is a brightly colored lantern, prompting me to shoot it and see what happens. It drops a spindle. I found a spindle. We climb down the hatch and navigate through some tight underground corridors to find a room with another lantern hanging from above. When we shoot the lantern, shiny objects are revealed all around the room that weren't here before. While I don't really think that this makes any sense, it's really cool that careful exploration reveals hidden secrets like this. We unfortunately have to waste ammo to drop the items, but I think it's worth it in the long run. Right around the corner is the creepy dude in a trench coat, which is perfect timing because we have to sell all of our goodies and buy some things. First and foremost, I buy some first aid spray, because if a fly happens to bump into me right now, I'm dead. Next, I decide to sell the things that we've looted along the way, some of which are worth 10,000 PTAs each. As I speculated before, dropping the wooden barrier over top of that nasty pool of liquid to keep the jewelry more pristine made it much more valuable. It's so rewarding to see our extra attention and effort pay off in this way. Using our newfound cash, we purchase the next upgrade for our inventory space and the TMP machine gun and stock attachment. Inventory management is becoming increasingly harder, as our guns take up most of the slots available, which really limits how much ammunition and how many grenades we can carry. Honestly, the act of managing our inventory sometimes takes longer than the actual fights in the game, but is essential to survive those fights. I spend 5 minutes adjusting things in our inventory until I'm happy with the way that it looks, and then I use the rest of our cash to upgrade our weapons. We head outside into the next region of the game, the cemetery. Immediately I can see blue medallions hanging from the trees in the area, but before I can shoot them, I decide to take care of some of the locals using our rifle. I straight up waste 4 bullets trying to knock down this single medallion because apparently Leon has f***ing Parkinson's disease and can't hold a steady aim. Clearing out the area puts us up to 7 medallions found, with only 10 needed for the special weapon we've been promised. We approach the church door only to be told it's locked. We answer a call from Hunnigan on our ear camera, and she basically tells us what we already know.
Well, there's no use standing around. Leon, you have to find some way or something to get inside.
Yeah, thanks, Hunnigan. I already knew that, and you haven't helped me with any of the other puzzles up until this point, so why would I need your shit advice now? Around the backside of the church, we find another puzzle of sorts. There's a dial that can only turn in increments of 3 or 4, and we presumably have to select the correct options to complete the puzzle. The problem is, I have no idea what the correct options are. I spend a few minutes trying to figure it out, and even head back to the cemetery to look for clues. I try inputting some of the symbols into the puzzle, but ultimately I get very bored with this and decide to skip it for now. We press onwards to see these wooden scaffoldings wrapping around the cliffside where a woman yells, and we shoot her in the face. Sometimes enemy deaths are hilarious in this game, and I love it. We shoot another medallion and find another note inside of the shed. The note indicates that Lewis is top priority and he stole something that needs to be recovered. The note also very blatantly explains that Ashley is being kept inside of the church, and that a spare key is kept on the other side of the lake, protected by something called Del Lago. We walk into the next area, which gives off some strong boss fight vibes. I have a feeling that this small arena is going to be used in the not-too-distant future. We walk into a doorway that leads onto a dock area with a typewriter to save our progress. The creepy dude in a trench coat has set up shop down here, and you know, this guy is never fully explained. Why is he here? How has he survived? Why is he able to sell us guns and upgrades, yet doesn't sell any ammunition despite the literal stacks of ammunition he has in front of him? I need answers, game! We leave the dock and enter into this narrow canyon, which I suspect has another boulder chase scene. Looking upwards all but confirms this, given that there's a giant boulder just sitting there. Going into this QuickTime event prepared is definitely helpful, and we managed to beat it on our first attempt. The next area is basically a swamp town with tripwire explosives and bad guys around every corner. Stealth probably would have been a viable approach here, but my first instinct is to shoot an explosive and alert everybody that we've arrived. I find a few boxes inside of this wooden shed and slice them open like I always do, only this time there's a goddamn snake inside that straight up gives me a heart attack. Man, we can't even trust boxes anymore. We fight our way through the onslaught of copy-pasted villagers and reach a wooden door that leads into the next area, which leads downhill to a dark, murky lake. We save our progress in a nearby tool shed, explore the area for goodies, and approach this lookout point.
Shit. Vámonos. Okay. Ándale.
Holy shit, that's a big catfish! The last note that we found suggested that there could be a key to the church on the other side of this lake, which basically tells us that this giant catfish is the next boss encounter. Further down the trail, we find a small motorboat full of harpoons, and already I don't have a good feeling about this. We hop inside and take a look at the map to see roughly where we need to go. Our trip to the main objective is short-lived though, as not even halfway into the lake a short cutscene plays out. Alright, so this is kind of awesome, I'm not gonna lie. Our boat's harpoon got tangled on Dalago and we're being drug around the lake like a goddamn ragdoll. There are trees floating on a surface that we have to try to steer away from, and every now and then Dalago does a telegraph move that can knock us out of the boat. Everything in this game is solved via QuickTime event though, so as long as I don't get the controls mixed up too much, we should be fine. I would be lying here if I said I didn't fall out of the boat on numerous occasions, as avoiding some of these obstacles and attacks can be pretty tough. At certain intervals, Dalago will dive underwater and our boat will come to a stop. During this stage, we have to throw harpoons at his mouth as he barrels towards us to avoid getting hit. Outside of this stage, the only time that I can get in some DPS is when we're moving fairly straight and I can throw some harpoons into his backside. Somehow we managed to defeat this thing on our first attempt. Okay, yeah, there's no way that our leg isn't broken from this. QuickTime event or not, the force of the rope tightening like this would have certainly fractured our tibia and fibula, and ripped us into the lake in the process. But Leon is the main character of the game, so thank goodness for immortality. We make it to the other side of the lake and stumble towards the cabin. Leon is really starting to feel the effects of the booger injection and begins writhing in pain, marking the end of Chapter 1-3. The next chapter begins and Leon is shown lying on the floor of the cabin. He jumps up and begins experiencing waves of pain and flashing images of the parasites inside of him. It turns out that this is all a nightmare and he awakens afterwards feeling fine, because main character. We answer an ear camera call from Hunnigan and basically tell her that we fancied a nap, which she seems fine with.
Lost consciousness.
We find another note inside of the cabin from an anonymous writer, telling us of a hidden passageway behind a waterfall that may come in handy. From the sounds of it though, we're going to be fighting something called El Gigante, so this won't be a walk in the park. We loot the cabin and surrounding area before pressing onwards through this door. I immediately check overhead for boulders because this game has me f***ing paranoid at this point. A few steps up the trail and we encounter a brand new enemy. Oh, Jesus Christ, what the f*** is that thing? Good lord, the design team for Resident Evil games have sick imaginations, and I love it. You can't let these things get too close to you because they have an AoE blade attack that swoops the adjacent area and hits like a f***ing truck, so it's best to shoot them from afar. This one goes down pretty easy and we press onwards down the waterfall. The next area has a couple enemies scattered throughout, but it's a puzzle for the most part. We have to shoot boxes hanging overhead to have the water current guide them to the proper positioning to get across. Using the environment like this as part of solving a puzzle is really solid game design, so thumbs up from me. I investigate the waterfall and it tells us that the current is too strong to pass through, so we have to find either a way to reduce or stop the flow of water. We're able to shoot some more wooden boxes to create a makeshift path across the water down below and find a lever to pull. Doing so shifts one of the wooden aqueducts to redirect the water into this watermill, which blocks the water from up above and unveils the tunnel behind the waterfall. Apparently the villagers were having a party behind there though, because hordes of them just start pouring out. I decide to use the wooden boxes to our advantage, as I can easily plink the villagers off as they try to cross. We finish them all off and head towards the tunnel behind the waterfall. This leads us to a large stone door with a round insignia on the face of it. After picking it up, the door is lifted and we answer another ear camera call from Hunnigan. The next chamber is a small cave system full of bats. I take a moment to kill them all with my knife in the hopes that they drop some goodies, but alas, my efforts are for nothing. We hop in the motorboat at the end of the dock to drive into the unknown, but this actually just takes us back to the dock that has the creepy dude in the trench coat and the typewriter. I'm not complaining though, because I needed both of these things. Now at this point, I can honestly say that I got lost for a few minutes. In my mind, the game was simply giving me access to the merchant and a save point, but I was meant to return to where I came from to backtrack towards the church from there. This was not the case, as I should have just proceeded from the dock area after driving the motorboat. When I was looking at my map, I saw that there was another merchant on the other side of the lake that I haven't been to yet, so I decided to check it out. This creepy dude apparently just has shops set up everywhere in Spain and has underground tunnel access to appear at any of them at any given time, which is both useful and disturbing. I decide to clean up our inventory and purchase our first rocket launcher that we can use during an oh shit moment. I take a moment to look at the map and figure out where I actually have to go to progress the storyline so we can get ourselves back on track. We find ourselves back inside of the small area that I speculated was going to turn into a boss fight, and yup, I definitely was right!
¡Rápido! 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 ¡Usa los músculos! ¡Rápido! ¡Apúrense! ¡Por aquí! ¡Rápido! ¡Rápido! ¡Por aquí! ¡Por aquí! ¡Ay! ¡Se vuelve loco! ¡Mierda!
Just as the fight starts, I decide to pull out the TMP and unload as many bullets into this big dude as I can. Unfortunately, I was a bit too close to him and he grabs me, but that's nothing that a QuickTime event can't solve. After enough damage has been dealt, he falls to his knees and we're given the option to climb onto his back, but I was too slow the first time and get absolutely pancaked on the ground.
Can't get to school now.
During the second attempt, I decide to run into one of the small wooden buildings in the hopes that it would give me some shelter from his attacks, but this was not the case. If anything, this was far worse, but after two of the buildings are destroyed, a short cutscene plays out showing the dog that we saved from the bear trap way back in the beginning of the game has returned to help us out. This is just beautiful game design. I love that a past optional decision can have an impact on game events like this. We knock the big dude down onto his knees and capitalize on his down state by, you guessed it, a QuickTime event. Not sure why Leon would want to close the distance and get all personal with this thing, but it looks sweet and feels epic, so I'll let it slide. We pump a ton more TMP ammo into his face and try to jump on top of him, but he pancakes us again. Luckily we had enough health to live through it, but holy shit, did he just find a tree?
Surprise, motherfucker.
I try to run inside of this little shack to avoid him, but I miss the QuickTime event and get smashed. It would seem to me that the best method of attack here is to kite around the perimeter of the area and periodically get in some DPS while I can. I have no idea how I survived this hit from him, but I don't ever f*** a gift horse in the mouth, so I roll with it. We jump onto his back for some more slashy slash, use our mixed herbs to heal up, get pancaked again, and decide to end this fight once and for all by trying out the rocket launcher. Let me just say, money well spent. Who's controlling these doors? Why are they letting me out now that I've defeated the boss? That seems counterintuitive to their motives for me. On our way back to the church, I shoot our 10th blue medallion dangling from the wooden structure in the distance, which means we can finally unlock our new special weapon at the next merchant. Right before we reach the church, this happens. We respawn at the other end of the wooden planks again, only this time Leon's Parkinson's is in full effect and I waste countless shots on the medallion. Before we get closer to the dogs, I decide to break out the sniper rifle and deal as much damage as I can from afar. This kind of works, but these things are crazy acrobatic and can easily dodge my shots, which results in me getting absolutely mauled on multiple occasions. After whittling down their numbers to only a single dog, I decide to zoom in with my sniper rifle for a closer look at their in-game model, and good lord, these things are horrendous looking. Let's just say that I'm really happy I bought that sniper rifle. Before proceeding into the church, I decide to take another crack at this puzzle around back. I head back to the tombstones to look for clues and eventually discover that there are 3 tombstones in the graveyard marking the burial sites for twins, each with unique symbols. Given that the hint on the puzzle was to find the 3 dead ringers, I make the educated guess that this is probably the solution. After fumbling around with the puzzle for about 5 minutes, I eventually input the symbols correctly and were rewarded with a green cat's eye. I'm assuming that this is just a valuable item to sell to the merchant, but I'm not quite sure. We open the church entrance by using the round insignia and proceed inside. We of course spend a few minutes looting everything in sight, then head upstairs onto the small balcony. We have to use this overhanging chandelier to get to the other side of the balcony, which feels really stylish and makes me feel like a badass. We find a small panel over here that is used to operate 3 different colored lights. Basically, we have to orient the lights so that they'll all overlap on top of each other and form the shape and colors depicted in the top center circle. I didn't quite get it on my first attempt, but with one minor adjustment, I solve it in record time.
Ashley!
Don't come!
Hey, take it easy.
No! Get away!
Calm down. Everything's going to be just fine. My name's Leon. I'm under the President's order to rescue you.
What? My father?
That's right. And I have to get you out of here. Now come with me.
Alright, so I'm just gonna come out and say it right now. I hate Ashley. I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to like her character, but I do not. Her personality is annoying, her dialogue is annoying, and she's very much a burden in every encounter that she's in. She's constantly portrayed as this helpless, fragile little girl, but according to the lore of the game, she's 20 years old and shouldn't be this fucking useless. Her only redeemable qualities are the short skirt and boob physics, but even those can't detract from the absolute parachutes that are her ears. We jump down from the balcony to leave the church and receive an immediate prompt to catch Ashley, because apparently she can't climb down a f***ing ladder.
I'll take the girl.
Who are you?
If you must know, my name is Osmond Sadler, the master of this fine religious community.
What do you want?
To demonstrate to the whole world our astounding power, of course. No longer will the United States think they can police the world forever. So, we kidnapped the president's daughter in order to give her our power and then send her back.
No. Leon, I think they shot something in my neck.
What did you do to her?
We just planted her a little gift. Oh, there's going to be one hell of a party when she returns home to her loving father. But before that, I thought I might bargain with the president for some donation. Believe it or not, it takes quite a lot of money to keep this church up and running.
Faith and money will lead you nowhere, Sadler.
Oh, I believe I forgot to tell you that we gave you the same gift.
When I was unconscious.
Oh, I truly hope you like our small but special contributions. When the eggs hatch, you will become my puppets. Involuntarily, you'll do as I say. I'll have total control over your minds. Don't you think this is a revolutionary way to promulgate one's faith?
Sounds more like an alien invasion if you ask me.
And on that note, we jump through the church's window, get a quick shot up Ashley's skirt, don't think I didn't catch that one, game developers, and complete chapter 2-1. The next chapter begins with us in a little stone cellar connected to the church. We loot everything in sight and step outside to witness a horde of villagers coming our way. The ammo situation is not looking good, so I decide to use an incendiary grenade to engage and then proceed to completely whiff the toss. I decide to fire a round into this wagon that showed up out of nowhere, and it turns out that it's full of flammables, which takes care of most of the enemies for us. The only one that remains is one of these blade parasite guys, and instead of avoiding him like a normal human being, Ashley decides to hunker in place like a scared puppy. Oh, I can already tell that this is going to be testing. We climb down a crypt into the catacombs below, and hey, it's the creepy dude with a trench coat! This means that we can claim our specialized gun from the store.
Welcome.
Turns out that the special gun is a 9mm pistol called the Punisher, and is capable of firing through multiple targets with one shot. This should hopefully save on ammunition and replace our other handgun for the most part. We restock on first aid spray, sell our valuables, and decide to upgrade the Punisher's firepower with our remaining money. We climb out of the cavern and save our progress on the typewriter before proceeding. We walk back out into the village we ran through before and immediately get our leg caught in a bear trap because f*** me. We start to get overwhelmed, and Ashley does a fantastic job of screaming and cowering, which is just great. We finish off the enemies and disarm the bear traps before proceeding into the next section of the village. Inside this tool shed is another note suggesting that Sarah was previously injected with the egg, but somehow found a way to remove it and survive the process. The note further suggests that Sarah took something important right before our arrival, but doesn't specify what it was. I decide to open up the map to see where we have to go, and let me just say that Resident Evil 4's map is pretty fantastic. It's super easy to understand, and the paths are very cleanly laid out. Green indicates doors that we have access to, while red indicates that we haven't found a way to progress through there yet. I turn my back for 3 seconds while fighting some enemies, and all I hear in the background is...
Alrighty then.
I learned that I can disarm bear traps by using my knife, which is super convenient for saving ammo. We climb onto this small roof so that I can jump down below into this secret little cove. Inside this wooden crate I find a beer stein, which is surely worth some money to the creepy dude. We jump off of another roof, catch Ashley because even the smallest of ladders is an impossibility for her fragile body, and boost her up over the tall door onto the other side. Oh hey, it's the creepy dude in a trench coat! He'll buy the beer stein for 3,000 PTAs, so not too shabby. We upgrade our Punisher a bit more and receive a call from Hunnigan on the ear camera. She tells us that the chopper that was coming for us must have been shot down and they're preparing another chopper for us in the meantime. We walk across the bridge and trigger another cutscene.
What are we gonna do, Leon?
Hate to say it, but we're sandwiched all right. Quick, in that cabin!
Leon! Small world, eh? Well, I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics, too.
Ha! Even he makes jokes about her boobs.
How rude! And I don't believe there's any relevance with my figure and my standing. Who are you?
Oh, excuse me, Your Highness. Perhaps the young lady might want to introduce herself first before asking someone his name.
Her name's Ashley Graham, the president's daughter.
Is she... well, you know.
Don't worry. She's cool.
Never mind. There's supposed to be some kind of obvious symptom before you turn into one of them anyway.
Look!
Ashley, upstairs!
Okay, it's game time.
We find ourselves in a standoff against hordes of seemingly never-ending enemies in a very confined space. This part of the level was actually pretty difficult, as it requires constant attention to different access points. Ammunition is pretty scarce when we start, but enemies seem to drop excessive amounts of it here, so it becomes not too much of a problem. We unfortunately fail this on our first attempt from getting overwhelmed, but the second attempt goes much smoother now that I know what to expect. At some point during the fight, Sarah suggests that we run upstairs. I oblige and we manage to survive through the never-ending waves and trigger another cutscene marking the end of Chapter 2-2.
Looks like they're backing off.
So, what do we do now?
The bridge I crossed to get here's out, so I guess we have no choice but to keep moving.
I forgot something. You guys go on ahead.
Louis.
Picking up after the cutscene, I loot everything of value inside the house before moving on. This of course involves loads of inventory organization and combining some of the herbs to make more space, but ultimately I figure out a way to cram as much shit as humanly possible into this tactical suitcase that we never see. Standing outside the homestead is the creepy dude in a trench coat, because of course he would just be hanging out here after a mass murder.
Welcome.
I feel like a true plot twist to this game would be to reveal this merchant as the mastermind behind everything, and showcase the extensive underground tunnel system he's dug by hand that links all these locations together. Does anyone remember the movie Vacancy? I get strong Vacancy vibes from this dude.
Come back anytime.
We find a giant cogwheel system linked to a lever, which gives us the option of opening either the left gate or the right gate. I chose left as it seems convoluted and difficult, which means it's probably the actual way to advance forwards. This next area would see us fighting dozens of enemies, many of which are bladehead dudes, and I'm dead. I'm not gonna lie, this section of the game took me quite a few attempts to complete. Not only are there loads of enemies to fight, but many of them have differing attack styles and second lives due to turning into bladeheads after they've been killed. But all of these are child's play compared to the enemies that I was about to face. We jump into the small arena down below, and a short cutscene plays out showing two enemies with chainsaws coming right for us. I quickly equip the TMP and unload it into both of them, but it doesn't seem to go very far before I have to reload and... Dying here means that we have to repeat this entire section, including all of the enemies on foot leading up to it. While this doesn't seem that bad, this section with the chainsaw ladies is incredibly difficult, and I failed it on many, many occasions. I tried using a frag grenade, but the one to my right side reached me too fast. I tried focusing the one to my right first, and then Ashley decided it was time for a nap. I tried focus firing on a single one, hoping to take them out, but the other one apparently snorted a line of coke prior to this and was on me in 2 seconds. I tried climbing up the ladder immediately once they spawned, but Ashley was kidnapped and taken off into the pits of hell. I tried using a shotgun for the knockback, but once again Ashley decided to take candy from a stranger and was lured away. I tried switching sides on the arena before dropping down, but I was lit on fire and Ashley became tired again. Eventually, through complete trial and error, cycling between every single weapon I had available and constantly moving into and out of the arena, I was able to scrape by. We loot the camp key off of one of the chainsaw ladies and unlock the door inside of the arena. We can't forget, though, that Ashley is f***ing worthless and struggles with basic human mobility, needing to be caught rather than climbing down a ladder like a capable person. And don't even think that the game will let you forget that she's f***ing annoying, because...
Where are you going, Leon?
We jump into this small storage area to loot it, and upon trying to climb out of it, Ashley shouts,
"Oh, you pervert!"
I'm guessing this was something the game developers threw in case players tried to use ladders to look up her skirt? Sorry, Ashley, but I'm not buying what you're selling, if you catch my drift. Shortly ahead is a blockade of sorts. Enemies start pouring down from above, but it's nothing that a few hand grenades, pistol rounds, and knife slashes can take care of. We load through this double red door into an open canyon with multiple paths ahead. I can see the creepy dude in a trench coat to our right and a set of large double doors ahead. Inside of this small building is a note stating that they've underestimated our abilities and no longer wish to wait for the egg to hatch. They've essentially backburnered the idea of finding Lewis and have instead set their sights on taking us out. There's a bit of foreshadowing about an ambush after we get on the lift, but there's not really any specifics. We save our progress on the nearby typewriter and talk with the creepy dude in a trench coat to sell all of our goods and purchase another upgrade for our Punisher. We head up the trail and inspect the giant double doors to be told they're locked and contain some kind of retinal scanner. So, an eye. We need an eye.
That guy's eye!
We hop aboard this lift descending down the mountain and have to kill enemies along the way. The guys that throw axes are incredibly accurate at this stage in the game, and if we don't shoot them before they throw the axe, we're more than likely going to be hit. The bottom of the lift contains nothing important, and we continue down these metal stairs to once again see the creepy dude in a trench coat just hanging out. We save our progress on the nearby typewriter and continue down the trail. We see a large barn that I can only suspect will be some kind of survival standoff or boss fight.
You better stay outside. Ashley, go hide.
Yeah.
I completely missed this QuickTime event, and... The second time around, though, I completely missed the same QuickTime event, and... The third time's the charm, though, and after finally landing it...
Hasta luego.
Oh, good lord, this dude is f***ed up looking. I immediately equipped the shotgun thinking that it might be best in close quarters, but this dude can take some hits. I try climbing up the ladder to get the land advantage, but he just pulls us back down. I try a flashbang grenade so that I can reposition myself, and eventually his upper body is separated from his lower body. You know, because this wasn't terrifying enough before. Now he's skipping around the barn like some kind of f***ed up parasitic Spider-Man. We keep moving our position to avoid his attacks and get as many TMP bullets into him as we can. Somehow we manage to kill him on our first attempt, and one of his nasty eyes slowly rolls out of his socket.
He's gonna wake up tomorrow, and he's not gonna know where his eye is!
It's kind of funny that the QuickTime events killed me more than the actual boss fight itself, but that's what happens when your controls don't match the in-game prompts. We leave the barn and I immediately hear...
Are you okay, Leon?
Oh, great, she's back. I was kinda hoping she f***ed off in the woods, but I guess we're stuck with her. We upgrade a few of our weapons on our way back through, save our progress on the typewriter, take the lift back up the canyon, and use the big dude's eye on the retinal scanning door. A small cutscene plays out showing a castle in the distance, which is pretty sweet looking and a nice change of scenery from the villages we've been stuck in. We start to walk up the trail in front of us and a truck comes barreling down the pathway. I try an incendiary grenade and firing off a sniper shot, but it just straight up runs me over. The next attempt I'm a bit more prepared and I decide to snipe the driver right away. This method is effective and causes the truck to crash into the hillside. A bunch of bad dudes come through the doorway behind us, but it's nothing that a shit ton of bullets can't solve. We press onwards through the castle and loot everything of value along the way. Valuables and collectibles are starting to change now, as we're being awarded velvet blue crystals that are worth more PTAs than some of the other values we've been looting. Upon reaching the bridge, a cutscene plays out showing a bunch of villagers running towards us. We run to the other side of the bridge and raise it up using the cranks on either side, blocking their access to us and completing Chapter 2-3. We step into the castle and wouldn't you know it, there's the creepy dude in a trench coat. This time around, he actually has quite a few upgrades for us, including a new attaché case, a blacktail pistol, the broken butterfly magnum, the riot shotgun, and the semi-automatic rifle and mine thrower. Now, I'm not even close to being able to afford these items, so I decide to purchase the treasure map for the castle, as this will reveal the location of most of the hidden valuable objects along the way. I figure that this small investment will surely pay itself off pretty quickly, and hopefully boost the amount of money that we can make along the way. I break all of the barrels in this area looking for loot and get bit by another snake because f*** this game. We start ascending our way up the castle walls and begin seeing some new enemies wandering about. They're wearing black robes and chanting some vague monk noises. I try to snipe as many as I can before engaging further, as I imagine these guys will be pretty difficult. Upon rounding the corner, a short cutscene plays out showing a dude in a red robe ordering a catapult attack on us. I react as quickly as I can and snipe the red barrel conveniently sitting next to all of them. Just when I think we're safe, I round the corner straight into another catapult attack and nearly die to the explosion. I snipe another red barrel and run into the small tool shed that literally has a masked dude with a scythe waiting for us. Fortunately, he goes down pretty quickly and we capitalize on the new vantage point by sniping another red barrel up top. The last catapult is just out of our line of sight though, so we can't snipe it from here. Upon trying to cross this bridge for a better vantage point, a catapult explosion goes off near us and Ashley fancies another nap, god damn it! Ashley dying here resets us all the way back down at the bottom of the castle and we have to redo this entire section all over again, which is very frustrating. Also, for those of you that have been wondering, I'm intentionally not using any kind of healing items on Ashley because f*** her. She dies in one hit anyways, and when enemies pick her up and start to carry her away, health doesn't play a factor. I actually played through the entirety of Resident Evil 4, only healing her one time, and I honestly think that this is the play because Leon's health is much more important. We avoid the explosion this time, take out all of the catapults, move this crank, and fire a cannon shot straight through the castle's gateway. We push onwards and come across the creepy dude in a trench coat again. We sell a few collectibles we picked up along the way and decide to sell our shotgun in favor of purchasing the new Riot shotgun. It can hold more ammunition, has a much stronger firepower, and looks so sweet. We load through the next doorway and answer an ear camera call from Hunnigan. Halfway through the call, our transmission is interrupted, which is completely fine to me because these calls provide almost nothing of value. In the next room, we discover a platinum sword mounted on a golden backplate. It begs me to take it, so I do. We walk upstairs to be ambushed by a bunch of monks, giving us the perfect opportunity to try out our new Riot shotgun, and oh my god, this thing is incredible! Alternating between the Riot shotgun and incendiary grenades absolutely f***s these monks in the ass. Although they certainly seem to be a lot tougher than the villagers were, especially the ones wearing red robes. After killing every cultist in sight, we find a golden sword mounted on a platinum backplate, and I've solved this quote-unquote puzzle before even looting the thing. We place the swords in their respective mounts and the doorway opens up. Upon loading into the next room, a short cutscene plays out with Lewis.
Lewis.
I've got something for you guys. What? Oh, shit! I must have dropped it when I was running away from them.
Dropped what?
A drug that'll stop your convulsions. Look, I know you're carriers. You've been coughing up blood, right?
Yeah.
And you?
Yes.
Damn it! The eggs have hatched. We don't have much time.
What are you talking about?
I have to go back and get it.
Let me come with you.
No, you stay here with Leon. He is better with the ladies, I'm sure.
Why are you...
It makes me feel better. Let's just leave it at that.
So Lewis's motives for helping us are still unknown at this point, but having convulsions from the eggs hatching sounds unpleasant, so I'll take any help that I can get. The next door that we load through has a ton of monks waiting for us, and I have to give props to the design team here, because enemy diversity is really good while still being really simplistic at the same time. So far, there's only a handful of different enemy types, but when thrown at you in waves like this, it makes the fights feel really unique and challenging. I don't think the monks appear nearly as copy-pasted as the villagers did either, as most of the monks already look very similar due to their robes, whereas the villagers you could easily pick out the ones that were copy-pasted. We make our way into this small castle cellar and find the castle gate key. This of course triggers a ton of monks to appear out of a black hole, but we handle ourselves just fine. We use the castle gate key on the large double doors and step inside. The interior of the castle is much brighter and better maintained than the castle's exterior, which is actually a really nice design touch. Few games think to include a small detail like this, but if you think about the exterior of a castle, it would be much darker from the years of environmental wear and low maintenance. After stepping a little bit closer to the stairs, a cutscene plays out.
I was starting to wonder when you might notice us.
Who are you?
Me llamo Ramon Salazar, the 8th Castellan of this magnificent architecture. I have been honored with the prodigious power from the great Lord Sadler. I've been expecting you, my brethrens.
No thanks, bro.
My, we've got a feisty one. If you care for your own well-being, I suggest you surrender yourself and simply become our hostage. Or Mr. Scott, you can give us the girl because you're not worth a penny, I'm afraid. You can die.
I'm never turning into one of them. Never.
Got that right. We'll find a cure.
So it would seem that our newest antagonist is named Salazar. It's kind of hard to be afraid of someone that would fit inside of my carry-on luggage, but I'm guessing that his bark matches his bite. After stepping a bit closer to this wall, another wall shifts in place and blocks our passage. I spot a valuable item stuck to the castle's interior above us and save our progress at the nearby typewriter. We check the map to see only a single pathway available to us right now, so I guess that's where we're heading. I run around looting and slashing things in the effort to find goodies and happen to spot some PTAs resting on top of this support beam down below. In the next room is a note pinned to the wall stating that priority has shifted back on Lewis instead of us, as he is taking a sample that is important to them. They foreshadow a third party being involved again, but no specifics are given. We find a prison key attached to this painting, and the next area is blocked off by these 2 horse statues breathing fire. I can only imagine how expensive the monthly gas bill is to run a barrier like this. It seems like a highly inefficient way to block trespassers, but alright. We use the prison key to access the jail cells below. Around the outskirts of the room are bells that can be rang by hitting them. Upon approaching this jail cell with a lever, the camera angle changes to showcase this scary-looking Hannibal dude. His eyes are sewn shut, which gives us the hint that he's blind but probably super sensitive to sound. I preemptively fire a few rounds into him, but they don't seem to connect. After stepping a little bit closer, he breaks free and starts to swing his Wolverine claws around like a toddler in a Halloween outfit. Just when I think that the fight isn't going too bad, Ashley suffers a flesh wound and decides it's time for a nap again. In the second attempt, I decide to use the bells around the room to lure him towards the sound, which works, but his attacks destroy the bell. I discover that by slowly walking instead of running, he can't hear our footsteps. I sneak into the jail cell that he was in and trip the lever to deactivate the fire-breathing horses upstairs. I try to simply sneak up the stairs and avoid combat with him altogether, but a door drops down and blocks our passage. So basically, we have no choice but to fight this guy. Shooting the parasite on his upper back seems to deal the most damage to him, as the metal plating on his body seems to block most of our shots. I decide that kiting him around the room until he loses track of us seems to be the best approach to take, as we can then line up some shots on the parasite. I cycle between a few different weapons here until he eventually falls and awards us with a hefty chunk of PTAs. We head upstairs towards the fire-breathing horses and have to fight our way through hordes of monks. While these guys are easy enough to defeat, ammunition is becoming a real concern at this stage in the game. Out of pure effort to conserve ammunition, I devise one of the greatest survivalist mechanics ever known to mankind: the knockin' knife. Basically, I put just enough bullets into an enemy to stagger them, at which point I close the distance for a roundhouse kick to the face, and then stab the shit out of them while they're knocked down. This method works surprisingly well, and would become my go-to method for dispatching of enemies and conserving ammunition. We defeat all of the monks here, walk past the previously fire-breathing horses, and load into the next section of the castle. If you could actually believe it, there are loads more monks waiting for us here. I know, it's crazy, right? I didn't see that coming. This section is actually quite difficult just because of the sheer number of enemies that the game throws at us and the very minimal amount of ammo that I have to work with. Sometimes I even have to let Ashley get carried for a short distance just so that I have one less enemy to deal with, and if you think that's a bit cruel, I encourage you to listen to her dialogue and not want to kill her yourself. Enemies seem to be more and more diverse with every passing minute. We're fighting monks with flails, tower shields, face mask, pervert fingers, and even giant parasites coming out of their heads. After multiple grenades, dozens of pistol rounds, numerous shotgun shells, and our newly discovered knock-and-knife method, we finally defeat all of the monks here and press onwards. We enter this doorway down below that has 2 pressure plates on either side of the room, indicating that we each need to stand on one. I tell Ashley to wait on the one side while I stand on the other, triggering a crank to straight up glitch through the floor. This triggers another dozen or so monks to attack us, and I simply leave Ashley inside of the room while I fight, as I figure it's the safest approach to take. I was wrong, as apparently monks can spawn inside of the room and she fancies a nap again. Her dying here resets the entire fight that we just completed, which is incredibly frustrating. This time around I decide to use a flash grenade on the horde of monks and go on an absolute roundhouse-kicking rampage.
Roadhouse.
We kill all of the monks and raise the crank back up again, but this time I learned my lesson and keep Ashley on follow. We seem to be successful this time and end up with quite a bit of excess ammo from our conservation methods. We go to operate the crank and we're asked who would like to operate it. Considering that Ashley is otherwise useless, I have her do it. And good thing, because more monks begin attacking us, and if she was the one guarding, I can only imagine how she would fancy another nap. Using the crank lowers a staircase in front of us, and after walking up towards the center fountain, Ashley says,
"Look, there's a crank over there."
We boost her up onto the ledge so that she can operate the cranks on the other side while I attempt to protect her. This section is challenging because there are monks attacking us all the while constantly progressing towards her. Now at first I prioritize protecting her, as in the past she's died while tying her shoelace, but I think that killing the enemies on me may have been a better move here. Regardless, we successfully protect her while she's using both of the cranks and we hear... because once again, she's useless and can't seem to climb down from a surface that's just over head height. We jump across the now raised platforms into the next area of the castle where there is more loot, a typewriter, and the creepy dude in a trench coat. After selling all of our valuables, we're sitting at a healthy 108,000 PTAs. I decide to buy the upgraded attaché case and the broken butterfly magnum pistol. This thing looks incredible and ends up being our most powerful firearm by far. We save our progress and take a few more steps forward to trigger a cutscene.
You alright?
I'm fine! Leave me alone!
Ashley, wait! Ashley!
What's going on?
Don't worry, Ashley. I'm coming for you.
Wow, what a very specifically designed trap. How would they possibly predict that someone would center themselves against the wall like this? If anything, I would think that the average person would have moved themselves into the corner, but I guess they banked on Ashley having no natural survival ability, which is accurate. The wall does a full 180 and whisks Ashley away in cuffs, marking the end of Chapter 3-1. The next chapter begins with us attempting to answer a call from Hunnigan on our ear camera, but the creepy short dude with the beady little eyes apparently hacked our communication line.
Salazar, how'd you...
We've jacked the line. We didn't want you telling everyone any unnecessary information.
Where's Ashley?
Ah, so she fell into one of our wonderful traps. We'll make sure we find her. Don't you worry about her. Oh yes, I let our miserable insects out for some exercise down in the sewer.
Thanks. That should keep me company, 'cause boredom kills me.
I'm not gonna lie, the voice acting here is pretty cringy. We open up the map to try to figure out where we're supposed to go, and I have to be honest, this is a bit daunting at first glance. Even though the levels are very linear, they're typically full of enemies and puzzles, so I just expect this to take a long time to get through. We enter into the sewers, and in a short distance we can hear and vaguely see something moving towards us. It turns out that the insects Salazar was talking about are capable of near-perfect invisibility. The only real way to locate them is through sound direction, visual cues from the environment, or our laser pointer's refraction. These things are wicked fast, can scale across vertical surfaces, and have this really nasty ability that they use if they get close enough to you. I gotta say, the enemy design here is top-notch, and I think it's really cool that these were included into the game. Up until this point, our enemies have mostly been humanoid-type creatures, with the occasional nasty-looking parasite bursting out of their head. These things, however, are a stark contrast to the rest of the game's enemies, while still fitting nicely into the realm of the storyline. We gun our way through the sewer system and turn a valve to drain the water from the chamber below, providing us access into a new door. After fighting our way through quite a few more predator insects, we walk through a door into the next section of the castle, which contains giant swinging axes because me, of course it does! And once again I have to ask, who built these? I feel like there are far more effective defensive systems out there that are much less elaborate. How many intruders does this castle actually get that they felt the need to construct swinging axes? I mean, is there a guy that has to come here every morning and start the axes? Or do they just independently swing on their own indefinitely? I need answers, game! We walk onto a balcony overlooking the main room that we were in before, but this time there's a whole lot of cult going on. I decide to capitalize on their worship by introducing a grenade into the sermon, which seems to really bring out their holiness. I'd kill me. We jump across the overhead chandeliers like a goddamn ninja again and find a hidden valuable behind this glass display. We jump down from the balcony and loot the Illuminatus pendant, which at first I thought was important for progression, but quickly discover that it's simply a valuable item that can be sold to the merchant. We decide to purchase the semi-auto rifle and scope, because if it's anything like the last gun we purchased, it should be a very welcome upgrade. We sell the old rifle for a depressing return of money, but deep down I know that it'll be worth it in the long run. This thing looks ridiculously sweet, by the way, and the scope is pretty clean looking. We press onwards into what appears to be the living quarters of the castle. Inside one of the rooms is a note providing some backstory into Salazar's family. It states that the Salazars once served the Castellans of the castle, and that long ago the first Castellan of the castle took away the rights and powers of the Los Illuminatus. Current-day Salazar is a practitioner of the religion and felt that it was his obligation to restore their power. He was able to find and release the lost Plagos that was hidden deep underneath of the castle and give it to Lord Sadler. He seems to believe that this is his way of atoning for the sins of his ancestors and restoring balance into the world. We enter into the next room and are immediately greeted by a Backstreet Boy wearing a taxidermy skull on his head. Upon stepping out, I immediately take a crossbow bolt to the right eye, which is a really poor way of hyping up your audience. This room essentially has 3 different levels to it, with crossbow snipers positioned all over. I take this opportunity to show them how efficient lead bullets can be compared to wooden crossbow bolts by trying out our newly purchased semi-automatic sniper rifle. It also gives me a bird's eye view of this guy, doing whatever the f*** he's doing. We snipe as many members of the boy band as possible before moving a little bit closer, and let me just say that these guys are freaking tanky! We try to capitalize on a few conveniently placed explosive barrels and start a game of tag with the leader of the group. Oh, and just where do you think you're going, you sexy little bitch? We chase him through multiple rooms and back out into the open area to be shown a short cutscene of him with a mounted minigun. Fortunately, the doors in this game are indestructible, and we can just hide behind it for cover. Unfortunately, I didn't hear this asshole sneaking up on us, so we take a few unnecessary hits. Once he's dispatched of, we kick open the door and snipe the leader straight in the face. He drops a gallery key, which presumably gives us access to the gallery. I guess that's where we have to go, but I'm not entirely sure. Kill things, loot things that you didn't know you need, press on until you need the said thing that you didn't know you need, and repeat. That's basically RE4. We use the gallery key on the door that the boy band was guarding and loot the room in typical fashion. Against the wall is a puzzle containing 4 different portraits. We have to organize the portraits so that the number of deaths depicted adds up to 6. The available switches are linked to multiple portraits though, so pressing one switch will flip a few different portraits at different positions on the wall. It takes me a moment to figure out which switch moves which portrait, but once I understood what controlled what, this was pretty straightforward. We find a solution to the puzzle and the entire wall slides to the left, revealing a hidden entryway. Walking through the door triggers a cutscene with Salazar.
What a pleasant surprise. But I'm afraid it's Ashley we need. Not you, Mr. Kennedy.
If you don't need me, then get off my back, old man.
Did you say old man, Mr. Kennedy? It might come as a surprise, but I'm only 20 years old.
So you're just like all the others? A puppet of the parasites?
Surely you don't think I'm the same as those diminutive ganados. The parasites, las plagas, are slaves to my will. I have absolute control.
Well, I really don't give a damn. Rain or shine, you're going down.
Get rid of our American friend.
So now we're stuck in a very compromising position in the room and have to face off against quite a few different enemies. A hand grenade does wonders for the group that's slowly closing in on us, but the ranged ones have to be sniped while continuing to deal with the close quarter enemies. All in all, this was a pretty easy fight given our new sniper rifle, but at a certain point one of the paintings on the wall opens up and 2 enemies inside have rocket launchers. They each fire a single rocket and then disappear again. I didn't see them disappear though, so I was really confused when the explosions stopped. We enter into a small side room and break a vase on the pedestal, revealing a large button that tells us we need to deactivate the security system first. On the far side of the room we find another button that deactivates the security system, and 2 dudes with the rockets show back up and fire a single rocket and then disappear again. We enter into the small side room again to press the button that we found before, and upon exiting the room we see the 2 dudes with rocket launchers again aiming down the sights at us. I tuck behind the door for cover, and once they prematurely blow their load, I kick open the door and snipe them both in the face. We walk over to the chest in the center of the room and loot the goat ornament. Wow, exactly what I've always wanted. We load into the next area and save our progress in the nearby typewriter. Artistically speaking, this area of the game is really cool looking. I love the look of the moonlight streaming through these windows, and the small environmental triggers like these birds flying around really help to set the mood. In direct contrast to this though, we walk out onto the small ledge where we can see just how limited the graphics are in this game. The castle doesn't portray the idea that we're super high up, yet the ground below us is solid black. The surrounding castle walls are very two-dimensional with flat textures. Little tricks like this were done to save on resources at the time, and I can't fault the game for it by any means, but it really showcases how far graphics have come over the years. We load into the next area to be shown a sweeping overhead view of the garden area, subdivided by different hedges and barriers. Before stepping into the courtyard, we receive a call on our ear camera and speak with our old friend Salazar.
Mr. Kennedy. Still alive, I see. So, do you like my garden?
I see you've managed to work in a little of your twisted taste here, too.
Sagacious as I am, even I get lost here sometimes. Even if it takes your whole life, you'll never get out. Do you know that no one dies without a cause? You will satisfy the stomachs of my cute pets. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to tie up a few loose ends, like chasing down a couple of rats.
2 rats? If one's Lewis, who's the other? Huh. They're an intruder besides me?
Okay, what the f*** was that laugh? And also the map would suggest that this maze is fairly simplistic in nature. He makes it sound like it's the Fisher King's realm, but in reality we have a satellite image of the projected pathways, and there's like 7. We enter into the garden area, and what is that noise? Oh my god! Oh my god, get the f*** off me! So the dogs from Blade Trinity are back and horrifying as ever. There are literal cages of these things at various locations throughout the garden. Just the sight of them all running in place with tentacles shooting out of their back is so disturbing to look at. Eventually we find a small fountain with the moonstone left half sitting on the outside rim. Once again, I don't know what this item is for, but it's probably important. Upon rounding the corner to leave, we get ambushed by multiple guard dogs that basically tickle me to death with the pleasures of hentai. The second time around goes a lot smoother now than what to expect. I keep my distance and use the riot shotgun to absolutely slap their biscuits and continue onwards. As I make my way through the maze, I decide to investigate some of the evident dead ends for the off chance of loot, which pays off in both valuables and healing items. Eventually we find a staircase leading up to another fountain and loot the moonstone right half. We head back to the balcony overlooking the maze and combine the 2 halves of the moonstone together to unlock the door, triggering a cutscene.
Put your hands where I can see them.
Sorry, but following a lady's lead just isn't my style.
Put them up now.
Bit of advice, try using knives next time. Works better for close encounters.
Leon. Long time no see.
I don't know who this is.
Ada. So it is true.
True? About what?
You, working with Wesker.
I see you've been doing your homework.
Why, Ada?
What's it to you?
Why are you here? Why'd you show up like this?
See you around.
That gun is useless without the magazine. I threw it! We explore the nearby rooms to loot and plunder as we do, and oh, wouldn't you know it, the creepy dude in a trench coat. Man, how the hell do you keep popping up in random places like this? We find another note in the room that talks about the female intruder. There's speculation that she's the one that removed the egg in Lewis and had him retrieve the sample before we arrived. We sell all of our valuables to the merchant, including the Illuminatus pendant that I was hanging on to. I decide to purchase the Blacktail handgun, as it seems to be a lot stronger than the Punisher that we're still using. We invest some of our remaining money into upgrading its firepower and capacity, sell our old Punisher pistol for a whopping 40,000 PTAs, and then further invest in upgrading our riot shotgun. These sections of the castle are quite lovely. They seem fairly well maintained and have a very high feeling of prestige. We walk up this hallway and press a bell, which flips a portrait on the distant wall and reveals a wine glass that looks very shootable. Upon shooting the said wine glass, a nearby door opens up, and once again, who designed this? This door has been constructed in a way that can only ever open once unless the wine glass is replaced. This is so unnecessarily elaborate. Why? We walk into the next room, which is very evidently a trap and get swarmed by enemies, including one of the big blind wolverines. We're stuck inside of this cage in the center and left exposed for multiple enemies to hit us from outside. We take the object in the chest while we're kiting around trying to decide what to do, and end up plowing through some of our healing items just to stay in the fight. I can see locks on the door to the cage, but the problem is I can't seem to take the time to shoot them because the blind wolverine is just helicoptering around. Eventually I decide to chuck an incendiary grenade at him and go straight Rambo on his ass, which seems to do the trick. Out of nowhere this dude falls from the sky, and we just casually slit his throat. I'm not really sure what he was planning on doing, but I found this really funny. We escape the cage and press onwards using our map to navigate. The next room has a lot of chanting going on, and I don't like it. I decide to snipe as many of the enemies as I can from our vantage point. These guys in the red robes have a different type of parasite that emerges once they die, and even after killing them a second time, the parasite breaks away from their body and runs around as its own little sentient being of death. These little things are fast, but go down relatively easily. We pull this giant lever on the side wall of this room, and happen to spot a rocket launcher inside of this glass display case. We need that in our lives, so I plan on finding a way to take it. Surprisingly, there are a lot of enemies in this small area, and it takes us a good bit of time to make our way through all of them. Eventually, I find a way to loop around to the display case and break the glass for the ultimate reward. Now, if I could just find some room for it. After fumbling around with inventory management for about 5 minutes straight, we eventually fit it, but lose some items in the process. We kick open this door like an absolute badass and run into the creepy dude in a trench coat again. We sell our valuables and notice that he has a brand new attaché case for sale, but it's a bit too rich for our blood. We pass on the upgrades for now and save our progress at the nearby typewriter. We load into the next area to trigger a cutscene with Lewis.
Leon! I got it.
Lewis!
Oh my god, was that his dick?
Now that I have the sample, you serve me no purpose.
Sadler!
My boy Salazar will make sure you follow the same fate.
But why? Why not kill me right now? You have no possible reason to walk away at this moment and not kill me, especially since it would take you only a few seconds like it did for Lewis.
Stay with me, Lewis. I am a researcher, hired by Sadler. He found out what I was up to.
Don't talk.
Here. It should suppress growth of the parasite. The sample. Sadler took it. You have to get it back.
Lewis! Lewis!
Yeah, I don't think that screaming at his face is gonna help that massive hole in his thorax. But you do you, Leon. You do you. We're given a bottle of pills to help suppress the growth of the parasite inside of our body, and we reach the end of Chapter 3-3. Once the new chapter begins, we can hear Ashley moaning in the background, and her character's health bar has reappeared on her UI, which basically means that we're gonna be stuck with her again. Looking down from our balcony, we can see Ashley stuck in the trap that she foolishly fell into before. I take a chance by sniping the 3 different locks holding her in place, partly because I think it's a solution to freeing her, but also because I really don't care if I miss.
Talk about near-death experience.
Ashley, get out of there!
So this next segment has us guarding Ashley from attacking enemies down below. This is your standard PlayStation 2 era protect the target type of mission. It's fairly straightforward for the most part, but the balcony that we're standing on doesn't let us look too sharply downwards, which is a bit of a problem sometimes. At some point an enemy makes it to Ashley and begins to carry her away, prompting her to scream. I take this as my cue to be an absolute legend, and skillfully guide the bullet through the air and straight into Ashley's chest. Motherfucker! I learned my lesson from the first time around and decide to snipe their little feetsies if they're carrying Ashley to avoid any collateral damage. This works and sees us successfully guarding her as she makes her escape. So now we're playing as Ashley. Great. Just what I wanted. Why in the world would the game developers possibly think that I would want to play as— Oh, okay, now it makes sense. While playing as Ashley, we're basically defenseless and just have to kite the enemies around while we solve puzzles and open doorways. There are objects in the environment that we can pick up and throw to stagger enemies and buy us some more time, but they're honestly pretty pointless to use. We turn these 2 cranks on either side of the barred doorway to open up the passageway and make our way to the end of the corridor. The next room is subdivided by metal bars blocking our way. Switches can be found in different locations throughout the room that will open certain bars and close others. This puzzle was pretty trivial, as you just always press the button that is next available to you to make your way through the puzzle. We find a stone tablet mounted over top of the mantle of the fireplace and continue into the next area. There is a clear shift of atmosphere in this room, as it's much darker than the other areas of the castle, and there are suits of armor positioned all around the room that I just know are going to come alive at some point. Ominous, eerie music slowly drones in the background and sets the mood for what's to come, and I can't help but think that I would absolutely love this section of the game if I wasn't playing a character I despise. We find this small puzzle box-esque type of thing on top of a pedestal in the middle of the room, and have to move the tiles to complete the picture. Now this kind of a puzzle might seem very difficult at a glance, but I'm an old-school RuneScape player, goddammit. I can solve puzzles like this in my sleep at this point. We complete the picture all but one piece and slide the stone tablet into the last position to unlock a nearby door. Inside we find a gold bangle treasure, the Salazar family insignia, and the serpent ornament. In typical Resident Evil 4 fashion, this is a trap, and all of the suits of armor come to life, and I f***ing knew it was just a matter of time. We dodge the ones in the room, but upon walking into the hallway a QuickTime event takes place that definitely caught me off guard, and we die. We avoided the second time around though, and it was at this point in the game that I discovered a very sneaky way of completing these QuickTime events. You see, the game doesn't penalize you for pressing the wrong button, it only cares that you press the correct one. While this is good for someone like me that's playing a port of a port of a port on a controller used for a different console entirely, it basically makes these QuickTime events meaningless. I can basically just press every single button on the controller at the same time, and always beat the QuickTime event. So you're damn right that's what I'm doing from now on. We work our way back into the room that we came from, avoid another suit of armor trying to decapitate us, and find a note sitting on the cabinet. The note basically states that Salazar had no remaining family, but a very strong belief in the Los Illuminados. Lord Sadler used this as a means of corrupting him and breaking his ancestors' protective seal of Los Plagos. The note reads almost empathetic towards Salazar and depicts him in a light of never doing something like this unknowingly. The writer seems to feel responsible for not stepping in sooner and stopping Lord Sadler's corruption of Salazar before it was too late. It says that there's no known cure for the Plaga parasite, and it will not die unless the host is killed. We find a nearby pedestal with a hole in the center of it. We slap the Salazar insignia inside of it and turn the dais, revealing a ladder hidden behind a nearby wall. I'm pretty sure this ladder segment was included for the sole purpose of almost being able to see up Ashley's skirt. You knew what you were doing here, developers. Don't deny it.
Leon!
Ashley! You did good.
I'm sorry if I was...
Oh, don't worry about it. Come on, let's move on.
And that's the end of Chapter 3-4, thank God that is over with. We receive a call from Salazar in the ear camera, who apparently knows all about us rescuing Ashley. How does he possibly know this already? And if he's been aware of our exact location and progress, why hasn't he made more of an attempt to stop us? So we're back to playing as Leon again, which is good, but we've inherited an Ashley again, which is bad. We enter into the next area to see a pit of lava down below us and what appears to be a moving platform to stand on. We avoid this for now and enter into the next room to find a railway car. We hop inside and take it back to the main area. We use our two insignias on the large door in the center of the room, only to discover that we're missing one. My best guess is that it's back in the area that we just traveled from on the other side of the lava pit, so we backtrack using the railway car and step onto the moving platform. This visual here reminds me of the character Axel from Twisted Metal, which makes me smile. The next area is full of lava and scary as hell. Enemies are positioned all around the outskirts, operating these large fire-breathing dragon statues. I break out the sniper rifle and go to town on the ones that I can see. The platforms are constantly moving, so a lot of the time my shots are obscured, but with proper timing I can take them out before getting roasted. We jump inside of this moving thing, but can't seem to be able to jump out the other side for some reason. It turns out that it's just super precise with its prompt, and eventually we figure it out. We wipe out all of the enemies on the other side and loot another Illuminatus pendant. After taking a few steps forward, we trigger this short little cutscene of another dragon statue descending from the ceiling and breathing fire at us. We quickly get out of dodge and decide to prioritize the enemies on foot using the knock-and-knife method. Once they're all dealt with, we break out the sniper rifle and immediately notice two brightly lit chain links holding up the statue. My gamer instincts kick in and tell me to shoot, to which I oblige. We run up the stairway and open up the chest to loot the lion ornament. We backtrack through the lava platforms, become a Twisted Metal character again, save our progress, and hop on the railway car back to the main area. We slap the lion ornament into the remaining slot on the wall, which drops it and allows us to pass. We proceed through the doorway onto the balcony outside. The scenery in the background is quite nice, and the soft blue moonlight really gives this area a lot of character. We hop into another railway car and arrive in a small room with a highly reflective floor, which honestly surprises me at first. Most everything in this game is stained, dark, or grungy, so seeing something like this feels really out of place. I feel like this floor is made of glass that can be shattered, but it's not. I tested it. With my knife. We load into the next area, and hey, it's the creepy dude in a trench coat! Of course he's here. We sell all of our valuables and decide to purchase the upgraded attaché case. I really hope that I'm saying that right. I feel like I'm not saying that right. Next, we purchase the mine thrower firearm and scope attachment, as the description sounds sweet and the price is right. I mean, just look at this thing. It's f***ing sweet. We decide to walk past the creepy dude in the trench coat to load through this blue door, only to see the creepy dude in a trench coat. What? There's a note on the table that reads target practice and begins to explain the rules of the game. Essentially what we're looking at here is a mini-game of sorts that provides some extra content and collectible items into the game. Depending on how well we do in the target practice area, we're awarded with bottle caps that are viewable in our collections menu. Now at first I wasn't sure what all of this meant, or if the bottle caps were some kind of additional currency that could be exchanged for new weapons, so I decided to take some time and complete the game. It's fairly straightforward for the most part, and operates just like a carnival-style shooting range would. The goal is to shoot the bad guys and hold your shots on the good guys. Headshots are worth more than body shots, and some targets are just worth more than others, so it pays to approach the game with some strategy. Now I probably spend a good 15 minutes or so in this minigame trying out the different game modes and trying to get my score as high as possible, with the understanding that the bottle caps may give us some kind of juicy reward in the end. Afterwards I decided to check out our collections, and as you can see, we nabbed quite a few of the bottle caps, but alas, no tangible reward was given. I think this target practice was mainly created for the completionists out there that love the extra content in their games, and I'm completely on board with this, but I can't say that I wasn't a bit disappointed that there wasn't some kind of sweet reward. We exit the target practice area and continue onwards to the castle's interior. There's a hallway that's filled with suits of armor that I fully anticipate are going to come to life, so I decide to tell Ashley to wait at the end of the hallway while I proceed. For some reason, completely unbeknownst to me, I fail both QuickTime events and take a ton of damage. We pop our first aid spray and enter into this large circular room. In the center of the room we loot an object called the King's Grail. This apparently pisses off the castle because the door closes on us and the suits of armor begin coming to life. I try firing some TMP bullets into one of the knights, but it doesn't seem to penetrate through its armor. I switch over to the riot shotgun with a slightly better initial outcome, but unfortunately the clunky controls cause us to miss some of these shots and take a ton of damage. Ultimately I discover that my bullets are connecting and damaging the knights just fine, it just takes a lot of them to get us anywhere. We alternate between shotgun, grenade, and the TMP to eventually take down all three of the knights, only to get thrown right into another fight with three beefier knights, and Ashley gets tired.
Boom!
Honestly though, I'm not even mad this time, because this just means that we can skillfully nail these QuickTime events that I failed the first time through. Knowing what to expect this time, I decide to try out the mine thrower for the first time. The scope is a bit clunky, and the explosions are delayed longer than I thought they would be, but ultimately it did us a lot of good, until Ashley got tired again.
Bop.
The third time's the charm though, and using a combination of all of our different weapons and the ancient art of kiting, we eventually take all of the knights down like an absolute gangsta. We limp out of the room and back into the dining area where we came from, only to find a new note sitting on the table. The note states that the sample is safe and back into the hands of Lord Sadler. It states that Lord Salazar is to capture Ashley and deliver her to Lord Sadler, and that we're to be disposed of. We save our progress on the nearby typewriter and enter into the other chamber. Inside is a locked door that reads, 4 knights shall clear the path. Inside the room are 2 knight statues that can be pushed around, and okay, I already solved the puzzle.
I think you've lived long enough. Let's see if you can survive this time.
The spike-covered ceiling begins to slowly descend down upon us, and this would be genuinely terrifying if the solution wasn't to shoot the 4 glowing red lights on the ceiling. Which it is. Apparently Salazar took lessons from Bond villains about how to build death traps. We follow Salazar down this narrow corridor, but once we pass through this doorway, there's another over-the-top, unnecessary trap to defeat us. Honestly, I don't get this trap at all, because not only did they destroy part of the castle, but the only one in real danger here is Ashley, who they're supposed to capture alive. I feel like they didn't think this one through. Regardless, we just bust out the sniper rifle and take care of the two drivers before anything can happen.
Wait. I don't want it.
We loot the room to find an elegant chessboard worth some cash at the merchant and loot the Queen's Grail, which will undoubtedly be used in the near future alongside the King's Grail. Once again, I've acquired 2 items that I didn't know that I needed, but definitely do, and now I need to find a place that I didn't know about, but definitely should have known about. Okay, game. Okay. We speak to the creepy dude in the trench coat once again to upgrade a few of our firearms and continue onwards. The only other room that we have available to us is this open chamber of the castle full of bad dudes. I decide that this is another good time to break out the mine thrower and fire 2 rounds into the guards, which definitely puts in some work. At the end of the chamber are 2 statues holding out their hands. One is a king and one is a queen, and I've already solved it. We hop out onto the balcony and climb up the ladder outside the castle. Looking back inside, we can see this giant, pulsating, grotesque organ-looking thing hanging from the castle's ceiling. I don't see any bad guys from up here, so we decide to hop down and catch Worthless while we're at it. You can keep her!
Great! More of them!
So now we're going up against insects again. They're not invisible, but they can fly, which is super annoying and makes them really hard to hit. Also, if one of them gets a hold of you... Ow! Oh god, what the fuck?! We wipe them all out flawlessly without taking a single point of damage whatsoever and gimp our way over to the lever at the side of the room. Upon pulling it, the nearby drawbridge begins to fall, but 2 chains are still holding it up. We shoot the brackets to fully drop the bridge and proceed onwards. In the next room is the creepy dude with a trench coat. We decide to upgrade some more of our firearms and save our progress at the nearby typewriter. We walk outside to see a tower of the castle in the distance, just across this wooden bridge. I can see a couple morons moping around the outside and decide to snipe them before proceeding. A few more steps forward and we receive a call from our old friend Salazar in the ear camera, who's basically just taunting us from afar. We pull out our stalker binoculars and can see that he's taking Ashley into a completely different section of the castle, which is fine by me. We start ascending up the castle tower's exterior to encounter more enemies, and I gotta say, these guys in the blue robes with scythes are really cool and intimidating. These guys are so much more visually appealing and fun to fight than that old dude in the village. We load into the castle tower to be greeted by a large clockwork system in front of us that I can only imagine will become some kind of puzzle to solve. Climbing all the way to the bottom of the tower yields no results, as the door is surprisingly locked. Wow! Who would have thought? After exploring the area a bit, I decide to start checking out the clockwork system and notice these brightly colored wooden blocks wedged in some of the cogs. Naturally, my first instinct is to fire some rounds into them, which seems to break them apart. After taking out 2 of the wooden blocks, I find a note on top of a nearby crate that basically says they've jammed the gears in 3 different places to hold us off. I spot the last block just below us, and I decide to break out the sniper rifle because I'm lazy. Taking out the last block fixes the cog system, which was apparently rigged up to the outside bridge and door at the bottom of the tower. Now, making progress like this never comes without spawning dozens of enemies, of course, so we have a fight on our hands all the way down. Most of the combat is routine at this point, but at some point a dude with dynamite shows up to make things a bit more interesting. Regardless, this section was pretty straightforward, and we successfully wipe all of them out before proceeding. We exit the tower to be greeted by a goddamn Spartan shield wall. I decide to use the mine thrower to deal with a few of them and use our trusty pistol for the last guy. We get halfway across the bridge and I get absolutely swarmed by enemies. I gotta say, this fight is pretty tough, and I come really close to dying at one point. But it's nothing that a little first aid spray and hundreds of bullets can't fix. After defeating all of the enemies outside, we load into the castle to be greeted by, you guessed it, more enemies. This time there are 2 of the blind Wolverine dudes, and while I have a better understanding about how to fight them, it doesn't make them any easier. I basically just kite them around the room, getting in shots where I can. At one point I land a mine thrower shot directly onto the back of one of them, which instantly takes him down. The last one I decide to just kite around the room and fill full of bullets until he eventually falls and I can proceed. Inventory management is becoming a real bitch at this point, and I'm struggling to find any room for anything. Resources are far too valuable to just get rid of, so we do our best to condense things as we go along. We load into the next room to be greeted by another cutscene.
Ashley.
Leon!
Mr. Kennedy, don't you know when it's time to throw in the towel?
No! Leon!
I'm pretty sure that a grappling hook wouldn't work on a completely smooth pitfall surface like this, but what do I know?
Where's the satisfying sound of one's impalement?
Don't fall for this old trick.
How dare you! No more games! Kill him! Kill! Quickly! We shall prepare for the ritual!
Leon, you're alive.
We answer another call from Salazar on the ear camera after escaping his trap, where we get some more awkward dialogue.
But it doesn't matter now, Mr. Kennedy. I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
Say whatever you please. Die, you worm!
I think Leon is supposed to come off as cool and witty, but some of these line deliveries between both characters just feel so unnatural. Maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the age of the game, but whatever it is, it feels really campy. We find ourselves in this small cavernous area that's connected to the castle's sewer system, surrounded by what appears to be victims of Salazar's Star Wars-inspired pitfall trap. The creepy dude in a trench coat is hanging out down here because of course he is, so we decide to sell our valuables and save our progress at the nearby typewriter. We climb up the ladder into the sewer tunnels above. At this point, Resident Evil 4 has petrified me into believing that invisible insects are around every corner, so I'm moving pretty slow in anticipation. We walk through this metal doorway into a more industrialized section of the castle's sewers, only for this horrifying cutscene to play out. I can't express how much I just love the idea of what they're doing here. We just came through that metal door, and after turning around and checking it out, we notice that it's now dented and cracked. Having something noticeably change in the environment like this after a cutscene is incredible game design, and really builds on the horror aspect of the game. We're being pursued by something, but at this point in time we don't know what it is, only that it's extremely fast and strong. We enter into this small side room down the corridor and inspect a tank sitting in the corner. The tooltip reads that it's liquid nitrogen. I'm not sure what this is used for yet, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. We exit the room, and out of nowhere, this spiked tail launches down from the ceiling. I don't react fast enough to the QuickTime event, so the first attack hits me. A faint growling noise can be heard above us in the vents, and good lord, this is awesome! I see another liquid nitrogen canister in the hallway and decide to fire a shotgun shell into it to see what happens, but alas, nothing. We're forced to explore more of the corridors down here while actively dodging this thing's attacks with seemingly no way to fight back. At least, not yet. We make our way to the end of the corridor and find another small room. We find a lever inside the room and pull it to activate the elevator, which locks the door that we use to enter this room and puts us on a 4-minute timer. This right here is petrifying. We can still hear the creature close by, patiently waiting while we're stuck inside. We make a loop around the room to see if there's any kind of artillery at our disposal, but the only thing that we can find is another canister of liquid nitrogen. After the first loop around the room, the creature shows itself. Holy shit, this thing is terrifying looking. It's incredibly fast, hits like a truck, and our weapons, including grenades, don't seem to do anything to it. I also can't keep any sort of a distance from it, so I'm just taking constant damage. The thing can even straight up dodge our bullets, it's that fucking fast, and I'm dead. Now unfortunately, I learned nothing from the first attempt except that this thing is fucking invincible. I've tried shooting the liquid nitrogen canister multiple times and nothing happens, so I've pretty much given up on trying to use it. We decide to simply kite the thing inside the room until the door opens up, which works, but it doesn't solve the problem of it still being alive. We work our way into another small side room, and this time when I get close to the liquid nitrogen canister, I see the prompt to knock it over. Upon doing so, the creature becomes frosted and ice, and we decide to capitalize on this with as many bullets as humanly possible. It seems to be taking some damage now, so I believe we've cracked the code. We knock over another canister in the corridor, the small room we're cutting inside of, and the other small side room. We put a magnum round straight through his chest and watch him shatter in front of us, putting an end to his xenomorph cosplay. The elevator that we called finally arrives, and I very happily step inside of it. Please get me out of this place.
It seems that Salazar is having difficulty taming the American pig. Salazar had his chance. Krauser, go get the girl. Oh, and dispose of the swine while you're at it.
Consider it done.
I feel like I'm supposed to know who this is, but I do not. Either way, that's the end of Chapter 4-1. At the bottom of the elevator is the creepy dude in a trench coat and a typewriter to save our progress. There's a note lying next to it that further expands on Salazar's backstory. It basically states that Salazar found the Lost Plagos in a fossilized, spore-like state, and they were basically waiting dormant for someone to uncover them. As Salazar's men excavated the area, the spores were breathed into their bodies and activated them on a cellular level. It took several years for the parasites to fully develop, but eventually they overtook the minds of their hosts and turned the surrounding villages hostile. We sell our valuables to the merchant and upgrade some of our firearms, namely the riot shotgun, mine thrower, and TMP. We walk through the nearby doorway and enter into what appears to be a mine shaft. This must be the area that Salazar's men have been excavating and discovered the Lost Plagos spores. I can't imagine exactly why, but this section of Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorites so far. I quite enjoy levels that are contained like this, and the environmental design down here is really unique to the rest of the game. We pull a lever in the corner of the cave that sends a minecart full of dynamite flying across the minecart tracks. It gets stuck just out of reach, and we need to find a way to dislodge it. The game kind of prompts us that we need to pull this other lever up above, so I'm guessing that's our objective. This is Resident Evil 4 though, and if there's anything that I've discovered from playing this game so far, it's that the moment that you make progress, hordes of enemies come at us. This statement remains true for the rest of the game, by the way, and oh, it's the old dude from the village again, god damn it. So we defeat all of the enemies and pull the lever up top, only to be attacked by, wait for it, more enemies. This time they've brought a dude with a chainsaw though, because that's definitely a tool that would be used in cave excavations. I waste no time equipping the Magnum and placing a round straight into his skull and tossing a grenade at the enemies behind us. Unfortunately, the chainsaw dude takes multiple Magnum rounds to kill, and I somehow miss my second shot, so we don't talk about it. Eventually he goes down and I pull the lever in the corner again to fully lower the minecart. We take the dynamite located inside of it and place it beside the rock blocking our path. This was a really cool use of dynamite, but I feel like we could have just climbed over the rock. We load into the next area, and this place is a stark contrast to the cave that we were just in. After walking a few feet towards the next door, two of the giant troll dudes come after us. I find a nearby lever and decide to pull it to see what happens, and it turns out that the center of the room is a trap door of sorts. If I could time it properly and lure the trolls onto the trap door, I could drop them into the lava below. The only problem was, I had already triggered the trap, and I was under the impression that it didn't reset, so I started cutting them around the room to explore the environment a little more. I find a ladder leading up to a platform above and take a zip line down to the opposite side to get some distance from them. I decide that now is probably the best time to use our rocket launcher that we've been hanging on to, so I fired into one of them and it instantly kills it. I was quite proud of myself for doing this, but then shortly afterwards discovered that the trapdoor does indeed reset and I just wasted our rocket launcher. F me. Either way, they're both dead now and that's what matters. We load into the next chamber of the cave and can see insects hovering in the distance. They haven't spotted me yet, so I decide to snipey-snipe as many of them as I can before proceeding. This room is actually quite large, with ramps and stone walkways leading to different areas. We walk into the small chamber and find a switch against the sidewall, which activates some kind of light in the main chamber. This of course leads to a full-on bug assault, but it's nothing that a combination of bullets and roundhouse kicks can't solve. I can see another small chamber on the opposite side of this cave that we probably need to get into, but upon walking over to it we get absolutely swarmed by bugs. This fight actually took me a couple minutes, just due to the sheer number of them to deal with, but eventually we wipe them all out. We enter into the other small chamber and press another switch, which activates a second light and straight up melts a doorway. What the hell? How is this a practical means of navigating down here? Do they replace the doorway every single time someone needs to pass, or has this doorway just never been closed in the past and it's a one-time use? This is very confusing. We walk through the gateway to see some giant stone stompers slamming downwards, and I'm dead. On the second attempt, we nearly make it to the end of the chamber, but the last stomper's timing is a bit different than the rest, and I'm dead. On the third attempt, I spot a lever on the sidewall that completely halts the middle stomper and makes this section passable. We loot a royal insignia and take the stone elevator platform upwards, completing Chapter 4-2 without any mistakes whatsoever. The creepy dude in a trench coat is standing here with a note plastered on a nearby post. The note basically tells us that once the Plaga egg hatches, it's nearly impossible to remove the parasite. Surgery might be an option before it turns into an adult, but the operation is very dangerous. Ashley was injected with the parasite first, so her time is ticking. Just not fast enough. We sell our valuables to the merchant, clean up our inventory, and decide to purchase the Striker shotgun. I'm not sure how this is going to compare to the Riot shotgun, so I don't sell it immediately like I've done with other firearms in the past. One thing I will say is that it looks f***ing sweet. We begin walking towards the taller castle in the distance, and the camera begins to pan towards a large tower in the background. You know, something I haven't talked about much up until this point are the short cutscenes like this that just abruptly end, out of nowhere. Like this camera pan lasted for 5 seconds and didn't even slow down or settle on the tower in the distance, it just ends. I'm fine with the camera drawing our attention to something, but it could spend a little bit more time building the atmosphere and emphasizing certain things. On our way towards the tower, we're forced to fight hordes of villagers that we've fought 100 times before, but the good news is that this is the perfect testing grounds for our new shotgun. Oh, holy shit, this thing is powerful! You know, I gotta hand it to the developers, they sure know how to make firearms feel really impactful in Resident Evil 4. We eventually discovered this crank inside of some old ruins that activates a QuickTime event, because of course it does. Just when you have me, game, you lose me again. We climb down the ladder and find ourselves in some kind of Egyptian-looking catacombs. Yeah, I'm not sure about this setting. It's a pretty stark contrast to the castle that we just came from, without any sort of logical, linear progression. It's like the developers wanted to desperately make their own Tomb Raider game, and just kinda shoehorned this in for good measure. I can see and hear a chainsaw dude on the second level of this area, so I decide to break out the sniper rifle and take him out while I have the chance. Little did I know that his skull is made of straight-up adamantium and can take every shot that I throw at him. Eventually we just break out the pistol and fire a few rounds into him to finish him off. We climb up into the little cubby that he was hiding inside of and proceed downwards to find yet another chainsaw dude. This motherfucker must have taken track in his younger years because he comes at us full sprint with no regard for the fact that he's got a chainsaw in his hands. Naturally, my reaction is to break out the shotgun and flatten his ass, but it turns out that he brought some backup that somehow flanked me from behind, so now I've got a war on two fronts. I decide to use a flash grenade followed by a frag grenade to lighten the burden, which does the trick for most of them, but there are always some stragglers in the background. We unlock the nearby door with the mine key and proceed down the narrow corridors. Upon loading into the next room, I look upwards and immediately see another spike trap in plain view. Apparently Salazar hasn't learned his lesson, because this trap also has the brightly lit red light bulbs indicating where to shoot in order to stop it, just like the last one. He did include a few of the little bugs to fight inside the room though, so I guess he's stepping it up a little bit. We load into the next chamber to see 3 minecarts set up on a track. Immediately I get the notion that this is going to be a moving shooter on rails type of experience, but thank God I'm only partially right. After stepping into the minecarts, we spot this lever just out of reach, so we fire a round into it to set the minecarts in motion. As we travel along the track, enemies begin dropping in from above and we have to navigate between the different carts to safely take them all out. At one point the minecart comes to a halt, and we have enemies diving in from either side of us, including a chainsaw dildo, you know what I mean. Surprisingly, we make it through this section alive, but upon restarting the minecart and fighting this lady behind me, I fail to see or dodge the wooden planks spanning across the railway tunnel, which does a tremendous amount of damage to us, and she's way too close for comfort, and I'm dead. This section of the game is actually quite difficult, and I've got a solid 20 minutes of gameplay into this section alone. Every time I think I'm doing well, something like this happens. And at the very end of the track, just when I think we're about to complete it, there's a goddamn QuickTime event that I miss. Dying in this section means restarting the whole minecart fight, which is about a solid 3 minutes to get to the end and attempt the QuickTime event again. But oh wait, did I mention that there's a QuickTime event after the QuickTime event? Because there is, and I failed it. Eventually, after countless attempts and an acute onset of carpal tunnel syndrome, we finally complete this small section of the game, and for the first time in Resident Evil 4, I decide to do a happy dance. The controls are pretty janky, so this is the best that I could come up with. We load through this ominous-looking door and step into a small chamber that definitely looks like something from Indiana Jones. We take the Stone of Sacrifice in the center of the room and a nearby wall opens up, because Capcom game. We climb up the ladder and find ourselves back in the small castle ruin area. We use the Stone of Sacrifice in the nearby door that I didn't even know was here, and take the elevator upwards, completing Chapter 4-3. We walk into the next area to see a giant stone statue of Salazar, just hanging out. After taking a look at its ankles, I can already tell this thing is going to come alive to some extent, but we'll just have to wait and see. Upon trying to walk out onto this bridge leaning across the water, this dude in a red robe who's been so proudly waiting in the shadows for this very moment uses a lever, collapsing the bridge and activating the Salazar statue. I would have thought that Salazar had something a little more sinister planned for this giant statue, but apparently choreographed Egyptian dancing was what made the cut. The knock-and-knife method is incredibly effective against enemies coming at us one at a time. Seriously, I can't stress just how much ammunition this saves, and just how good it feels to slowly peel back the skin of someone's face. Oh, sorry, I got carried away a little bit there. It turns out that the statue's hands can be ridden upwards to reach another level of the area, but I didn't know this at first, and since the ominous music kept continuously playing in the background, I thought that I had found a glitch in the game that didn't properly trigger the second bridge like it should have. This resulted in me unnecessarily restarting the level and taking 2 crossbow bolts straight to the neck, but you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet, if you know what I'm saying. Eventually we discover the hand elevators and pull another lever up top, which raises the second bridge but also stops the statue's movements. We need to use his belly button lever again to move the other hand one more time and allow us access onto the opposite side's higher level, which contains a third lever on the statue's left shoulder blade. From what I can tell, this lever just adds a small cupping motion to his dance moves, so not really necessary for progression. Upon trying to cross this now fully constructed bridge, the statue comes alive to chase us, and you guessed it, QuickTime event. Even though we nail the button mashing first try, the developers thought it would be hilarious to slap a lock on the door at the end, just to absolutely f*** with us. This results in us dying, of course, so we have to try the event all over again. We nail both events second time, but oh wait, another QuickTime event! Whoa, gameplay! At least I get to watch that stupid statue plummet into the black abyss that is low render distance.
So nice you could join us, Mr. Scott Kennedy.
You again.
The sacred rite that's about to begin at this tower shall endow the girl with magnificent power. She will join us, become one of us.
This is no ritual. It's terrorism.
Isn't that a popular word these days? Not to worry. We've prepared a special ritual for you.
Jesus Christ, they're putting QuickTime events inside of cutscenes now. Leave it to the Resident Evil developers to mess with the sacred trust of cutscenes. The next section of the castle is pretty cool and essentially has us ascending up this spiraling staircase around the outside of the room. At some point they start rolling barrels down the stairs like Donkey Kong, but they're easy enough to avoid. Enemies start pouring at us from every direction, biting our faces, shooting crossbow bolts, throwing f***ing dynamite, you name it, they're probably trying it on us right now. We find our way onto this small lift in the center of the room, but upon trying to use it, it tells us that we're over capacity. I decide to push the nearby boxes off of the lift straight through what appears to be solid geometry, and the lift becomes operational. As we slowly ascend upwards, enemies start dropping down onto the lift, which weighs it down and stops the lift altogether. I actually quite like the idea of this, despite how janky it feels. The idea of having something weight-dependent in the game and then using it in a combat-oriented way is fantastic game design, so high five from Bunneh.
Nope. That's a lot of damage.
We finally reach the top of the tower and discover another elevator nearby, ascending us further upwards into the tower. As we round the corner, we see the creepy dude in a trench coat just hunched over like a f***ing Neanderthal. Thank God he always brings this typewriter with him. Sitting beside him on the crates are boxes of ammunition and first aid spray, which immediately tells me that we're about to enter a boss fight. I take a few moments to organize our inventory, sell our valuables, and upgrade some of our firearms that I think are going to be useful in the fight. We clench our ass cheeks together and enter the set of nearby double doors, triggering a cutscene.
You just missed her. The ritual is over. She left with my men to an island.
What?
time I paid my due respects towards your impressive and stubborn will. Mr. Kennedy, welcome.
Oh, Jesus Christ, this thing is freaking nasty looking, and I absolutely love the grotesque design behind it. But then Leon has to go and ruin it with another cheesy line.
Monsters. Guess after this, there'll be one less to worry about.
So my immediate reaction is to shoot the giant eyeball staring directly at us, but this doesn't seem to do anything at the moment. I then decide to try damaging one of the tentacles off to the side, all the while avoiding Salazar's attacks that come at us in the form of QuickTime events, because f*** me. Shooting the tentacle seems to work though, as once I damage it enough, it retreats back into the wall. I repeat this on the other side and then return to the center to shoot at the eye. This did the trick, as Salazar's tiny little body pops out for a moment and allows us to get in some mine thrower darts. I cycle through a few different weapons during the fight just to test if certain firearms work better than other ones, but ultimately the strategy remains the same and it's just a case of rinse and repeat. At one point, Salazar picks us up and tosses us down below, but we escape up the ladder pretty quickly and continue the cycle. Eventually, we break out the Magnum and absolutely f*** Salazar in the ass, ending his miserable little life and completing the boss fight in our first attempt. In classic Resident Evil 4 fashion, we loot the room to replenish our ammo, loot 50,000 PTAs from Salazar's body, and take the elevator downwards. Conveniently, the creepy dude in a trench coat is standing here with his typewriter, which we take full advantage of to lick our wounds after the Salazar fight. I finally decide to sell the riot shotgun, as the striker just seems to outperform it in every capacity. We use our hefty supply of PTAs to upgrade our various weapons and save our progress on the nearby typewriter. We walk out onto the small dock area and trigger a short cutscene, ending Chapter 4-4.
Need a ride, handsome?
Okay.
Got some business to take care of. See you later.
Okay, I really don't understand this woman. Does she like us? Is she using us? Why cause the boat to crash like this? It serves no purpose.
I hate to break it out to you, but Salazar's dead.
Yes, it seems that way.
Sadler, why don't you give up and let Ashley go home?
Perhaps you are disillusioned with overconfidence, just because you killed my small-time subordinate.
Sadler, you're small time.
Okay, the quote-unquote witty comebacks are becoming far worse than I could have ever possibly imagined. Did Leon just respond to Lord Sadler with, "You're small time"? Is that really the best that the writers could do? I guess I'll just leave the cool guy persona to Dante.
Oh. Writhe in my cage of torment, my friend.
So we're on an island now, if you haven't figured that out yet, and I know why we're here because Salazar said they brought Ashley to the island, but why we're here, I don't actually know. The game never really goes into detail if the island bears any significance or importance, it's just an island, and we're here. We're not even 50 steps into the island and I can hear the shrilling sound of... Why is she yelling for us? She has no idea that we're even here yet. Our arrival was completely discreet, and also why are they just now taking her away? We just had a large-scale battle with Salazar and left in a motorboat well after they did, so they should have beaten us here by a large margin of time. I decide to break out the sniper rifle and see if I can take out the overhead spotlights to maybe make our approach forwards a little bit stealthier. Silly me forgot that this wasn't a Splinter Cell game, though, and approaching enemies with stealth means absolutely nothing when the enemies have giant miniguns and apparently X-ray vision. These enemies on the island are tough, to say the least, and I'm beginning to think that this introductory section is a bit of a trial by fire. Even the normal foot soldiers come equipped with shocking batons, flame-tipped crossbow bolts, and medieval weaponry. Eventually we take them all down, but I can certainly tell that the game is going to be much more difficult moving forwards. We explore the outside area a bit and discover this reflector that can be rotated around in position. I spot another one in the distance and make the assumption that they must be used to redirect a light source to open the door. We approach the door and activate a laser beam that shoots out and hits the second reflector that we were messing around with, so I know at least I'm on the right track. With a couple more adjustments, we successfully redirect the laser into this orange thing on the other side. Why Resident Evil 4 has such convoluted locking systems, I'll never know. At this point, I'm just going to go along with it. We walk out onto this small ledge, and just out of the top of my eye, I can see this boulder precariously placed on the edge. Man, you think they would have stopped trying to smash us with boulders after the first 2 times, but maybe they think the third time's the charm. We navigate our way up the island's corridors and tunnel systems. There are loads of enemies waiting around every corner ready to ambush us, and all I can think to myself is, there goes our precious ammo. We find this Golden Lynx trophy on top of this small ledge, which feels incredibly rewarding since we found it without the island's treasure map. The TMP is really coming in handy for some of these larger groups of enemies at longer ranges. Its damage is fairly high now due to the upgrades we bought along the way, and given how little we've used it, we've got a lot of ammo stockpiled. We find the creepy dude in a trench coat, just chillin', on the island, during an all-out bloodbath between us and the Los Plagos infected population. I mean, how did he possibly get here? Did he drive a boat? Regardless, we decide to capitalize on his capitalism. See what I did there? We sell all of our valuables and immediately purchase the island treasure map, banking on the fact that it will return us back the money we invest in it tenfold. I notice there's a new firearm for sale called the Killer 7, which appears to be the latest and greatest Magnum pistol. Its damage output is insane compared to our current one, so this might have to be a purchase in the near future. We make our way inside the compound on the island, fighting small groups of enemies along the way. Resident Evil 4 does a fantastic job of building the environment around us to tell a story, even without the use of cutscenes or written excerpts. This place was clearly some kind of military bunker in the past that has been revitalized as an evil hub center for Lord Sadler. The walls are stained and grungy looking. The doors appear overused and rusted. Maggot-infested corpses dangle from the kitchen ceiling and— oh, Jesus Christ! What I'm getting at here is that the set dressing for the game is phenomenal. So much of the world is built upon by the small visual details along the way, so much so that I consider the cutscenes to only be a fraction of the total storyline. Entering into the next small chamber, we can hear— I mean, why did they make Ashley's character so goddamn annoying? I think we should just call back to the US and tell them that the mission was a failure. There's just no saving her. So we're fighting large dudes in full suits of metal armor now, and let me just say that these guys can take some bullets. Good thing I've got the knock-and-knife method at my disposal, as otherwise I don't think I'd be able to conserve enough ammo to make it through some of these sections. We follow the shrilling sounds of Ashley's voice through the compound and come across the security panel full of CCTVs. Ashley appears to be locked inside of a jail cell, just constantly shouting for us to come help her. Man, it's a real shame that the bad guys don't know how to use duct tape. Wait, what? This dude can sense us watching through the security camera? How? I didn't realize the Los Plagos parasite had telepathy powers as well. We check the map for guidance on where to go, and from what it appears, we have a few moments of peace to explore and loot. This is great, because I'm actually getting quite low on ammo and supplies. We round the corner and see the creepy dude in a trench coat, which is convenient and disturbing as always. We decide to sell our broken butterfly magnum pistol in favor of purchasing the Killer 7. As I mentioned before, it seems to have a much higher damage output than our current Magnum, and just makes sense to get the most bang for our buck since Magnum ammo is really rare to come by. There's another shooting range in the adjacent room, but just like last time, it appears that this is purely a minigame for completionists of RE4. I really don't have any desire to collect all of the bottle caps, so we move on. Rounding the corner is this little ambush of sorts, with multiple ranged enemies hiding behind this garage door set on a timer. One well-placed mine-thrower dart seems to deal with most of them, and the knock-and-knife method takes care of the rest. We find the typewriter in the next room and save our progress before continuing. This section of the island is a stark contrast to the rest. The corridors are tight and dark, with flickering lights in some of the hallways being the only real source of visibility. Droning horror music starts to play in the background, really shifting the mood from fast-paced action to slow-paced horror. Stretchers are found littered throughout the corridors, with hundreds of medical bottles and vials resting on the metal shelves. It's quite clear at this point that we found the medical facility of the compound. We enter into this small laboratory and the camera pans around this glass window, revealing what appears to be a darkened corpse of some kind. Given its placement on the table and the surgical equipment overhead, I would say this was some kind of an experiment gone wrong. But why was it left here? We walk over to the nearby locked door and access the panel next to it. This presents us with a puzzle of sorts, where we have to redirect power from the upper left section to the bottom right, indicated by the flashing arrows. Choosing a color option will rotate all of the arrows of that color, and if this seems difficult at a glance, it's not. We clear this puzzle in like 20 seconds. No joke. We find another note inside of the next room providing some backstory and context into the things we're beginning to see. As we speculated, this medical facility was a site of experimentations, giving rise to the giant troll things that we fought earlier. The note says that there's one type of creature that stands out from the rest, and that creature is called a regenerator. They're nearly invincible to conventional weapons, and have to be killed in a very specific way. Apparently the parasites living within them are a form of leech-like plagas that can quickly repair the damage done to the host's body. In order to kill a regenerator, the plagas inside of it has to be killed first, but the only way of detecting them is through thermal imaging. All of this sounds like foreshadowing to me, and I don't like it. On the stretcher table beside us is a rather horrifying experiment involving whatever the hell this is. We walk around the backside of the stretcher and loot a freezer card key off of the corpse. As soon as we start walking towards the door, we hear a loud noise in the room that we came from. I immediately equip our striker shotgun in anticipation, and good thing I did because in strolls this foreshadowed regenerator. The note that we just read didn't do this thing justice. I absolutely scatter this thing with shotgun shells, pistol rounds, and magnum shots before it finally goes down. I feel like I wasted so much ammunition in this thing, but with nowhere to run and no prior knowledge of their AI, I did the best that I could. We leave the laboratory with the new freezer card key in hand, but I can hear the faint breathing sounds of another regenerator just around a corner. I fire off a mind thrower dart into his face, but it just straight up eats it. And the next. And the next. And 2 full rounds of TMP ammo before it finally goes down. But wait! There's more! If we act fast, we can fight yet another regenerator in the following corridor. Wow, Johnny, that's amazing! Just when I think that we had a decent supply of ammunition being built up, they introduce creatures like this that can swallow a f***ing submarine missile and walk away with nothing but a bad stomachache. We use the freezer card key to gain access into the freezer, as you may have guessed. We see multiple regenerator corpses hanging from the ceiling, and immediately I have a bad feeling about this. Located in the small side room is a glass cabinet that is frozen over and we can't access, but there's something shiny in there and I want it. In the other side room is a small device used to rewrite keycards, which I'm guessing is something that we have to do, so I go ahead and go through with it. We turn our freezer card key into the waste disposal card key. Next to this device is the controls for the freezer. We're given the option to turn it off, which I accept fully knowing that shit is about to hit the fan. I'm fully prepared to fight a regenerator if one comes alive, which, let's be honest, it's going to, but I want that shiny thing. We walk back over to the glass cabinet and open it up to loot the infrared scope attachment. This, for some reason, triggers the lock on the freezer door and a regenerator comes to life. I lace it with a few shotgun shells, but it just yeets its body onto mine and We repeat the steps that we just went through to loot the infrared scope again, but this time I walk into the freezer area before we get trapped inside of this small room. I fight the regenerator for a bit, but at some point the freezer door unlocks and we just decide to conserve our remaining ammo by leaving. We round the corner and find the waste disposal area that we just made a keycard for, so this is probably where we're supposed to go. I decide to check out the infrared scope inside of our inventory to see what it does. The tooltip reads that it can be attached to any .223 caliber rifle and can be used to see hidden parasites inside of the enemy's body. Based on what that note had suggested, this should enable us to kill the leech-like parasites inside of a regenerator body much easier. I slap it onto our sniper rifle for now and continue on. Against the sidewall are controls for a crane arm in the next room. My first thought was that I was supposed to use this to pick up the enemies and then drop them off the edge, but the arms just seemed to clip through them without actually picking them up. Maybe I was supposed to use this to pick up the dumpsters in this area, but before I could test this out, the enemies started rushing inside the control room.
Bitch, ain't nobody got time for this!
Loading into the next room, we can hear Ashley incessantly yelling and pounding on her jail cell door. Does this girl ever get tired? Her jail cell is being guarded by 2 of the bulky dudes in metal armor. I decide that a hand grenade and a few magnum rounds might be the best option for dealing with them, and I was right. We approach Ashley's jail cell door to unlock it, but apparently we can't. We also can't talk to her through the jail cell door, which I find odd, but I'm honestly fine with it. The next room down the stairs houses a bunch of enemies for us to fight, but it's nothing that dozens of pistol rounds, shotgun shells, and knockin' knives wouldn't take care of. We find a typewriter inside of a small utility closet and decide to save our progress before moving forwards. The room beside us is a small lab full of monitors that are monitoring things. Important things you guys wouldn't understand, but I definitely do. Understand, that is. Upon entering the next small side room, a short cutscene plays out showing us this spiky boy coming straight down the hallway. I think this is the perfect time to try out the new infrared scope, and oh yeah, check it out. We can see the little parasite dudes all through them. This certainly makes the fight a lot easier, and after felling the spiky boy like a dying fir tree, we loot the storage room card key. We explore and loot the lab as much as possible before proceeding onwards, and I have to say that the design team was actually pretty creative with some of the placements of items. Some things are stored inside of small little storage vaults that have to be opened up, or behind glass that has to be broken. Little touches like this are really nice and add to the gameplay experience, despite the fact that it makes no sense that these items would be here at all. We make our way outside onto this large metal bridge, and there's the creepy dude in a trench coat. Okay, it's to be expected at this point. We sell our valuables, reload our weapons, clean up our inventory, and proceed up the elevator.
This is Leon. Request backup. I repeat, request backup.
Well, that didn't work. Inspecting the console states that our radio signal is being jammed, and while I'm not an expert on these matters, I think it might be...
Raspberry.
We head back inside of the facility and begin to backtrack through some of the previously explored areas. Upon rounding the corner, we stumble into a small group of enemies just waiting for us at the top of the stairs. I try my best evasive maneuvers to avoid the crossbow bolts being shot at us, but Leon's moveset is quite clunky and limited, so we take a bolt or two. After clearing the area, we backtrack towards Ashley's jail cell to rescue her in this very awkward and less than fulfilling manner, ending Chapter 5-1.
You okay? Come on, let's get out of here.
Boom! After rescuing Ashley, this paper airplane soars through the jail cell window. Given the red lipstick stain, I'm guessing this is from our maybe friend Ada. She tells us to use the waste disposal vent to escape. Why she's helping us sometimes and not others, I really don't know. Upon exiting the jail cell, we encounter quite a few enemies, surely pissed that we've rescued Ashley. If I actually had free choice in this game, I would certainly just let them have her and be done with this whole struggle, but we're on some kind of super secret rescue mission, I get it, I'll listen. We enter this small control room and there's a lot of enemies and I'm dead. The second time is the charm and I'm dead. The third time is the charm and Ashley decides to take refuge right in front of my knife and she's dead. So the fourth time is the charm, and who knew that hand grenades were so effective in small areas? That solved all of the problems. We walk onto the small waste disposal platform from earlier and trigger a short cutscene.
Looks like this is it.
Ugh, it stinks.
Sure does.
No way, Leon.
Way?
Are you out of your mind?
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
You... What is this?
Come on, let's go.
Okay, so I feel like this jump was incredibly dangerous. They could have landed on sharp scrap metal or broken glass for God's sakes. I mean, the game even draws attention to the fact that there's a spiky boy laying right there. What if that thing was alive and just tore right into Ashley? I mean, good riddance, but still, this was a careless decision. I checked the regenerator's body for parasites with the infrared scope, but there doesn't appear to be any living inside of it. As soon as we try to walk away, though, the regenerator comes to life and attacks us, which is bullshit because I just checked it for Leechy Boys a second ago. Regardless, a few well-placed sniper shots and a conveniently placed explosive barrel seems to do the trick. We push a dumpster into a small waterway to act as a makeshift bridge, and fight another regenerator waiting around the corner. Oh, holy shit! That definitely should have killed me, but don't ever gift horse in the mouth if you know what I'm saying. The next area throws a bunch of enemies at us, including another big boy wearing metal armor. Luckily, the Killer 7 Magnum does not mess around and can basically take these guys out in one shot. The next area that we walk into contains a wrecking ball suspended over a small pool of what appears to be molten lava. I'm not sure why this is here, but I'm just grateful that I didn't stumble into a Miley Cyrus music video. Ashley spouts out that,
"Look, there's a gate here,"
and enemies come pouring into the room. This section is actually quite difficult, as the enemy numbers have been steadily increasing and scaling linearly with their difficulty. Sheesh, say that 10 times fast. I'm not complaining though, because this is actually really solid game design, but it certainly feels like some of these fights can be a hassle. Many of the enemies have a second life in the form of the parasite jutting from their heads once they've died, which not only prolongs these fights, but also adds the mechanic of trying to keep distance from these things' AoE scythe attacks. Eventually we finish off the horde of enemies and use the panel inside the small control room. Just like before, I have Ashley operate it just in case more enemies come at us, but it looks like we're in the clear. This is both refreshing and disappointing, because that means we were probably supposed to do this the entire time during that fight. We enter into the newly revealed doorway and scour the place for supplies. This place houses a lot of metal cages, crates, and dog food, which foreshadows that there may be more of those freaky dogs in the near future. Upon opening up the next bay door, we're greeted by a regenerator coming right for us.
My God, it's coming right for us!
I've mastered fighting these things at this point, so I'm not too concerned about it, and it goes down pretty quickly. We walk into this small side room and press the bright red button on the wall, which partially opens up this other bay door at a separate location. Another regenerator spawns out of thin air and starts coming right for us.
It's coming right for us!
But just like the last one, it goes down pretty quick. We approach the partially open bay door and receive this prompt to send Ashley through to the other side to open the door. So Leon can jump across impossible gaps, scale to soaring heights, and straight up get porcupined by a parasitic, leech-infected experimentation. But crouching a bit? Nah, that's out of his skill set. Some might say that such skills would have been taught in basic training, but they're out of their goddamn minds if they think we can bend our knees slightly.
Disappointed!
We enter a small side room to find the creepy dude in a trench coat just casually creeping, as he does. We sell our valuables and purchase the tactical vest upgrade, which passively reduces all of our damage taken by 30%. While I do like the idea of a purchase like this, I don't feel that this is an upgrade as much as it is a necessity. Enemies are hitting so hard now that we almost have to buy this just to stay alive. Credit where credit's due though, Leon's character model visually changes with the purchase of this vest, which was a really nice touch. We save our progress at the nearby typewriter and head towards this large double door with levers on either side. The door is locked and the levers must be pulled simultaneously to open up the door. While this concept seems simple in theory, I cannot for the life of me figure out how to get both Ashley and Leon to pull these levers at the same time. So I did what any logical person would do in my scenario and began randomly shooting and knifing various parts of the level in the hopes that something would eventually happen. It didn't, which left me even more baffled than I was before. Eventually, after a solid 5 minutes of trying different buttons, attacking things, and staring at the map, I decide to walk Ashley over to the one lever and use the stay command. You know, like she's a goddamn golden retriever. After doing this and approaching the other lever, I'm now provided with the tooltip of, let's give it a try, followed by a, we did it! Are you f***ing serious, game? You introduce a brand new mechanic out of nowhere, provide no tooltips or clues on the functionality, and then throw some kind of kindergarten words of encouragement at us when we figure it out? Okay, game. Okay. On the other side of the door is a large garbage truck with a completely open bed in the back. Already I have a bad feeling that this is going to be one of those slow-moving ride-and-shoot type of levels. We hop in the back of the truck and Ashley takes the wheel. Surely she can't mess this up, right? Oh, Jesus Christ. So my initial instincts were correct, and this is definitely a slow-moving ride-and-shoot type of level, but the combat itself is actually quite fast-paced. In fact, enemies are pouring in from all directions, and at some point another truck starts coming right for us, requiring us to blow it up before it rams into us. I don't skimp on using ammunition during this phase, as trying to conserve bullets could mean failing these fights. At a certain point, we pull into a small enclosed bay where we have to leave Ashley with the truck and climb overhead to activate a switch. This area is full of enemies of every caliber, and during the fights on the overhead catwalk, we can hear...
Help me, Leon! Leon!
So I want to point out that I'm not editing Ashley's audio in any way. She's just that f***ing obnoxious to listen to on a normal basis. Despite all of her screaming and our best attempts, Ashley gets electrocuted to death, and I can't say that I'm too upset over it, but something about responsibility and duty to our country makes us try this whole thing again. The second time around goes much smoother, although certainly not for my still bleeding ears. We hop onto the back of the truck and ride the elevator lift upwards. The next section plays very similar to the first one, although there are loads of spots for enemies to jump onto the truck from above. Most of the time, I don't even have the luxury of reloading my weapons and just have to switch to keep on fighting. Despite the difficulty, things seem to be going fairly smooth until we hear a large truck in front of ours barreling straight towards us. I try to shoot it with a mine thrower dart, but the countdown delay before it explodes takes way too long and I'm dead. But mama didn't raise no quitter, so second time around I make sure that I'm pre-aiming the corner and fire off 2 mine thrower darts to ensure our success and I'm dead. On the third attempt, one of the scythe head guys falls over right beside Ashley in the truck, and apparently collision detection isn't that great in RE4 because he hits her twice through multiple layers of solid steel. The fourth time around, I decided to break out the Killer 7 Magnum pistol and pre-aim where the large truck comes out of. I probably could have stopped it at a single bullet, but I fired off 3 just for good measure. At first I thought we were unsuccessful again because the truck basically rams into us just like it had in the past, but apparently this time we're perfectly fine. Ashley decides to drive us straight through a nearby solid concrete building, and I'm pretty sure that the developers overestimated the capabilities of a garbage truck. We dust ourselves off from the giant wreck that just happened, that we're apparently not going to address, and step into the adjacent room. The creepy dude in a trench coat is here, and now I've gotten to the point where I expect to see him hiding inside of broom closets rather than being surprised by it. We sell our valuables, upgrade our Killer 7's firepower from 15 to 30, and save our progress at the nearby typewriter. I decide to take a look at my inventory to assess the ammo situation, and oh wow, that garbage truck fight was not kind to us.
I can feel them growing ever so strongly inside you.
Sadler!
Perhaps you can resist, but you cannot disobey. Now, come to me, Ashley.
Oh no, it looks like we're too late.
Ashley!
So I posed this question before, but why doesn't Lord Sadler just kill us right here and now? He obviously has the power to do it, and it would take him less than 2 seconds. I mean, if I was Lord Sadler, I would be pissed at the amount of times that Leon has interrupted my plans and stalled my progress, so I would just kill him out of spite. Ultimately, though, he lets us go, and we complete Chapter 5-2. We walk up the stairs and find a note labeled Our Plan, which is really funny and almost a parody of how a villain would perfectly lay out their thoughts and intentions. The note is written by Lord Sadler himself, and basically summarizes his hatred for us for having killed some of his most loyal men. Apparently the Plaga reflects the consciousness of the host, thus he has to be careful in choosing his men to ensure that they won't betray him. He then says that his next hour is extremely important, and nothing will stand in his way, except for us, of course, because he didn't kill us.
What's the news on our friend, Leon?
He's not making it easy. The sample?
Sadler's got it. It seems he sniffed out our little game.
Perfect.
Just so we understand each other clearly, I don't trust you, nor does Wesker. If you try to do anything clever, I will kill you.
Is that so? You know, I met Wesker long before you.
We'll see soon enough if you did.
These name drops mean nothing to me since my experience in this game series is limited to this very game, so this doesn't have much of an impact on me. We push onwards through the underbelly of some kind of workshop. We encounter an enemy that transforms into one of those scythe head dudes, and I'm just gonna let this combat scene play out live for you guys so you can see how bullshit some of these stun locks can be.
Wait a minute.
As aforementioned, my ammunition supply is drastically low at this point, and I'm doing everything that I can to conserve it. The knock-and-knife method is extremely effective in small groups of enemies, but against the scythe heads or crossbow enemies, it's pretty ineffective. I use up an incendiary grenade in the smaller room just to get some of the enemies out of my way, and hopefully supply me with some much-needed ammunition, to which they kind of comply. We press onwards through the factory and make our way to the small outside enclosure housing an elevator. We ride it upwards onto this small catwalk and trigger a cutscene.
Been a long time, comrade. Krauser. I died in a crash 2 years ago. Is that what they told you?
You're the one who kidnapped Ashley.
You catch on quick, as expected. After all, you and I both know where we come from.
What do you want?
The sample Sadler developed, that's all.
Leave Ashley out of this!
Oh, I needed her to buy Sadler's trust in me. Like you, I'm American.
You got her involved just for that?
All for Umbrella's sake.
Umbrella?
Almost let it slip. Enough talk. Die, comrade!
Ada!
Well, if it isn't the bitch in the red dress.
Looks like we have the upper hand here.
You may be able to prolong your life, but it's not like you can escape your inevitable death, is it?
You knew each other?
More or less. Maybe it's about time you told me the reason why you're here.
Maybe some other time.
So before we take this awkward call with Lord Sadler on the ear camera, I just have to say that this was one of the only acceptable and engaging uses of QuickTime events in the game so far. Incorporating small bits of the storyline with engaging combat cinematics and occasionally requiring the player's input is a fantastic game design choice here. I can't help but think that the rest of the game would have been so much more enjoyable had they used QuickTime events in this manner as opposed to the way that they had up until this point. Anyways, after the fight cinematic ends, we take a call from Lord Sadler on the ear camera, and the dialogue goes back to being really cheesy and forced.
Enjoy the reunion with your old friend?
As a matter of fact, I did.
Wonderful. I wouldn't want my special guests on the island feeling unattended.
Guess I'm supposed to thank you, right?
Ah, I have an idea. Since you're here, why don't I introduce you to it? It should keep you busy.
Can't remember the name, huh? A senior moment, perhaps.
Oh. Enjoy the fun.
We explore the catwalks and nearby ladders looking for any supplies that we can get our hands on, but alas, there's nothing to be found. We walk through a nearby door and find ourselves entering this brightly lit white hallway, starkly contrasting the grungy factory that we just came from. Upon taking our first steps into the corridor, these bright red lasers appear in front of us and block our path. It appears that we can just time it properly and walk on through, which we can. The next set of lasers is oriented differently, but ultimately it's the same solution to get by. The third set quickly changes and comes barreling towards us, prompting a QuickTime event to dodge them. Now see, once again, I think this is a great use of QuickTime events. It's condensed enough that it isn't repetitive, it's ever-changing, and it progressively tells a small story from beginning to end. Plus, some of Leon's animations during this sequence look absolutely badass. This one gets a big thumbs up from me. Getting through the door at the very end of the hallway rewards us with a very strange Easter egg, or at least I'm assuming it's an Easter egg. We approach the throne in the room and see the prompt of ? To which Leon sits in the chair like a pondering villain with text telling us there's no time for this. Maybe this is a throwback to a long-standing joke in the series, or maybe it's just the developers having a laugh. Either way, I'm cool with it despite it breaking the fourth wall a bit. We loop around the backside of the throne and take a small elevator deep underground, once again starkly contrasting the area that we just came from. Resident Evil 4 has a way of plunging players right into new environments without much build-up or transition, and I'm not sure if this is purposeful design choice or if it's just the result of system limitations at the time of the game's release. I mean, it works, but it's just a bit jarring at times. We find another note down here from Lewis talking about the 3 characteristics of the Plogus. He writes that the Plogus have the ability to manipulate the host, a collective intelligence amongst one another, and that they have an exceptional adaptation skill. He admits to being blinded by the Los Illuminatus' ill intentions due to his sheer fascination with the Plagas, and feels that he was responsible for the events that are unfolding. Next to the note is the creepy dude in a trench coat who I swear wasn't here a second ago when we approached this area, but like I said before, his presence in these odd locations really doesn't surprise me any longer. We sell our valuables, use our money to upgrade our blacktail pistol a few times, and save our progress on the nearby typewriter. The ammo situation is still looking a bit rough, but we do have quite a few grenades to work with. We walk through a giant set of double doors into a small cavernous area. Metal catwalks stretch between narrow corridors, with a black void engulfing the area below us. Taking a few more steps in the cavern begins a short cinematic scene showcasing this giant, segmented metal cage suspended from the ceiling. I have a sneaky suspicion that we're about to walk into a boss fight, and just as I mentioned a moment ago, our ammo situation isn't the greatest.
Ashley. What is that?
Okay, yup, I was right about the boss fight. This thing immediately grabs us, but luckily our QuickTime button presses are on point and we can break free. We need to find a way to progress through this giant cage that we're stuck in, and after exploring the area a bit, we discover that we can shoot or knife these little green bulbs in order to open up passageways. There are 2 red buttons in this first area that have to be pressed in order to unlock the large double doors separating the cages. Pressing the second red button in an area will start a 30-second timer, requiring us to get to the next small subsection of the cage that we're stuck in before it collapses. The whatever the f*** it is stalking us the whole time that we're exploring the cages and solving puzzles, occasionally dropping down on us from above or activating a QuickTime event that we have to respond to. He seems to run away after we deal enough damage to him, so the method of completing these sections seems to be kite, solve puzzles, damage, and repeat. Some of the little green bulbs and red buttons are in some pretty hidden places, which is kind of nice because otherwise these sections would be far too easy to progress through. After we make it through a few of the cages, the monster drops down from above and transforms into this f***ing thing. Oh my god! I don't even have words to properly describe it, outside of grotesque, disturbing, and awesome. If there's one thing that Resident Evil 4 got right, it was their enemy design. Hands down. We pump it full of bullets and incendiary grenades for good measure. This causes it to run away for the time being and leave us in peace as we solve some more puzzles. We shoot this green bulb to unlock the door on the opposite side, and after pressing the red button, the final 30-second timer starts. We start booking it towards the cage exit, but just as we're about to enter into this vent, it drops down from above and attacks us. I decide to tank the hit and run towards the exit. We make it with plenty of time to spare and activate this awesome little cutscene of Leon hopping onto the crane hook and the final cage plummeting into the depths below. Now, of course, I'm not naive enough to believe that that was the last we'll see of the monster, and yup, there he is, okay. We find ourselves going toe-to-toe with this thing in a slightly larger area. It would seem that we're meant to kite this thing around the rock that's central to this room, so that's what I decide to do. We take advantage of the red explosive barrel that he walks past and decide to break out the Killer 7 Magnum for some heavy DPS. These shots really seem to have an impact on him, and just after a few bullets, his humanoid head goes limp and just kinda dangles there. So now we're left with this giant, disgusting pincher bug, which isn't any less intimidating, but I feel like we've made some progress. At some point, the thing burrows into the ground and disappears from our sight, only to activate a QuickTime event prompting us to dodge his attack. All it takes is one more well-placed mine thrower dart to end this thing's miserable existence and somehow open up a nearby door. Yeah, I still don't quite understand how that works, but I'm gonna roll with it. We leave the boss fight area and take this metal ladder towards the surface. I'm of course looting everything in sight as we go along, but the ammo situation hasn't improved much following that boss fight. We walk over to the edge of this small cliff looking down onto a campsite, and without any hesitation whatsoever, I capitalize on the explosive barrel in the center. What has this game done to me? We find this manhole inside of a tent leading back underground, and it would seem that this is my only possible exit from this area, so we jump down into it. If you were thinking that we would find a creepy dude in a trench coat just drooling on his feet down here, you'd be right. There's also a note lying next to him written from Krauser, that jack dude with the knife that attacked us. It basically says that Lord Sadler wasn't buying into Krauser's allegiance from the start and never gave him all of the information of what was going on. Krauser was the one who called for Ada's assistance, knowing that Lord Sadler didn't trust him. But Krauser didn't trust Lord Sadler or Ada, he was just on a mission from Wesker. As I'm reading this script out loud, all I can think is that this sounds like the really cheesy plot to a soap opera. We clean up our inventory, sell our valuables to the merchant, and save our progress on the nearby typewriter. There's another shooting range in the room next door, but just like last time, ain't nobody got time for that! We climb up the nearby ladder and walk through this dusty double door. We're standing on a small patch of raised land overlooking what appears to be some dilapidated ruins. These ruins are just like the ones we encountered underground before, although this area seems a bit more open. Almost like a boss fight area.
So, you two are all hooked up now, is that it?
Where's Ashley?
Do you really want to know? She's beyond that gate. But you'll need 3 insignias to open it.
What are you gonna do, Krauser?
There's one in the north, and the other in the east.
And let me guess, you got the last one.
It pretty much means you're on a tight leash.
Sounds like you thought this one out pretty well.
So I'm behind cover at the end of this cutscene, but I'm standing in the open when the cutscene ends. How does that work? So Krauser has us in a bit of a pinch here. Despite the area being decent sized, the corridors and buildings are really tight. The doors are on timers, meaning that we can't easily advance into the next area. Krauser is extremely fast, and capable of dodging most of our shots and closing the gap on us very quickly. He hits like a fucking dump truck full of anchors, so juggling our healing meds is going to be vital here. I decide to start using the outside pillars and structures to line of sight Krauser as best I can. This gets him to stop firing from range and close in for melee, which is better than being shot at, I suppose. I use a combination of flashbangs and mine thrower darts to get in some cheesy DPS, and at some point he pulls us into a short quicktime event where we kick his ass. After enough time passes, the metal gate unlocks inside of this small building. As I'm running through the ruins, I can hear Krauser's stupid military boots slapping on the ground right behind us. This dude apparently snorted a line of coke right before the fight began because he's like a fucking gorilla in these ruins. I mean, just look at this, what? At some point I decide to break out the Killer 7 Magnum to see how it would do against him, and after a single shot he throws a flashbang and runs. So I would say it was pretty effective. Our main focus right now is to acquire the other 2 insignias needed to get through the door, so we basically just damage Krauser as necessary and keep progressing onwards. Sometimes he'll use melee, sometimes he'll just spray and pray, and other times he uses a perch on a building to shoot explosive tipped arrows at us. Once we reach the first insignia, we're greeted with a short cutscene.
What do you intend to do restoring Umbrella? To bring order and balance to this insane world of ours.
A psycho like you can't bring order or balance.
You don't seriously think a conservative mind can chart a new course for the world, do you?
This section plays out just like the rest of the Krauser fights have, except in a much smaller area. He's still bouncing around like a goddamn gorilla and throwing explosives out of every orifice, while we struggle to even turn slightly. But all in all, I think we're holding our own. After using up all of our frag grenades, we finally damage him down enough to end this section of the fight. A statue rises from the ground, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out where it goes. We push it over top of the pressure plate and pull the lever on the nearby wall to open up the doorway. I see another lever right around this corner, and upon running up to it and pressing it, Krauser shows up out of nowhere like a f***ing ninja and slices our throat. By all means, we should be dead right now, but I'm not complaining. We hop off the ledge to see these tiny little robots blocking our path. These things die easy enough, but there are quite a few of them, and the constant ticking noise tells me that they might explode. The good news is that they drop lots of ammunition for us, which is amazing since we've been low on ammo for quite a long time now. We work our way inside of this small tower and climb up this ladder to the top. The second insignia is on this wooden platform wrapping around the top of the tower. Upon looting it, a short cutscene plays out.
Two down, one more to go, Krauser. We'll see about that. Witness the power!
You've lost it completely, Krauser.
Prepare for your death, Leon.
We're immediately prompted with a quicktime event that I wasn't prepared for, and I'm smashing buttons as quickly as I can, and I'm dead. We survive the quicktime event the second time around, and the game indicates that there are explosives all over the tower they're fighting Krauser on, giving us 3 minutes to fight him. Krauser has this freaking wing shield thing that blocks our bullets, and every time he gets close, I just hemorrhage health. I would like to say that I lasted a while in this fight, but I would be lying. He tore me up pretty quickly.
Jesus Christ.
I'm feeling a bit more confident with my third attempt, but still completely unsure on how to defeat him. His wing shield seems to block all of our shots entirely, and we can't seem to leave this small wooden catwalk because he just keeps us here, trolling us. I even try a flash grenade to try to run by him, but it doesn't seem to affect him. I learned that I can get in some shots by aiming at very specific areas and catching them between certain animations, but this damage is very hit and miss. Through trial and error, I eventually discover a brand new technique that is surprisingly effective. One that has echoed through the minds of gamers for many years. That's right, I start shooting Krauser in the fucking knees. It's the only area of his body that isn't blocked by his wing shield, meaning that we can get in some steady DPS. Krauser is constantly pulling us into quicktime events, and even though I'm able to avoid damage on most of them, if he pulls us into one near the edge of the tower, we enter into this falling event where damage is unavoidable. Ultimately, this kills us for the third time, but the bombs were about to go off anyway, so it's all good.
Alrighty then.
I enter the fourth fight with much more confidence and immediately begin shooting Krauser in the knees. Once he drops down, I quickly switch to the Killer 7 Magnum for a quick high-damage shot, which seems to be really effective. I repeat this process a few times, and after a mere 47 seconds, Krauser falls. Upon inspecting his body, we're given the tooltip of, Krauser, what happened to you? You used to be such a good guy. I'm not sure about this because my only experience with him has been in this game, and he's been a dick the entire time, so good riddance. We run down to the ruined doorway and use our 3 insignias on it to open it up, revealing another passageway behind it and completing Chapter 5-3. When the next area loads, we take a call from Lord Sadler on the ear camera. As always, the voice acting doesn't disappoint.
Seems you killed Krauser, too. How shall I return my appreciation?
What are you talking about? I thought he was with you.
What are you talking about? Did you really think I'd trust an American? To tell you the truth, I was contemplating how to get rid of him. But thanks to you, that's no longer necessary.
You were just using him right from the start.
Oh, I must hand it to you. You've demonstrated quite a bit of promise by killing Krauser. When your assimilation with Las Plagas is complete, I'll have you serve as my guard.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to decline your generous offer. I have prior engagements.
Enjoy your smart-mouthing while you can.
Good lord, that was cringy. We walk up the trail a few steps to be greeted by this really cool, swooping cutscene of the area ahead of us. There are guards patrolling with rifles, machine guns, rocket launchers, fucking rubber chickens, you name it, they've got it. Fortunately for us, an ally of the US shows up flying a helicopter, directly over top of all of the enemies holding rocket launchers. How did they not see or hear him flying directly over them?
Luz de pólvora.
Okay, what? Are helicopters fucking silent now all of a sudden? Why did he have to topple over the water tower anyways? He's flying what appears to be a fully loaded Apache helicopter, which according to Patrick Stewart...
An Apache helicopter has machine guns and missiles. It is an unbelievably impressive complement of weaponry, an absolute death machine.
See, this here is what I mean. Why did he have to use the water tower? Also, why didn't a single enemy fire back at him? So we find ourselves in this kind of slow-moving A to B type of mission. We have to progress up the paths and hide behind cover where it's available, but fighting the enemies is kind of pointless when the helicopter will eventually take care of them. I decide to conserve on our precious ammunition here as much as possible and just tank the occasional hit. We just straight up ignore these shield trolls and climb up the ladder. Apparently we don't take any damage in ladder animations, which would have been good to know sooner. Across this gap is a jack dude with a minigun, so I decide to attempt to snipe him before we zipline across to avoid as much damage as possible. Leon once again decides that he has Parkinson's disease, and it's hard to aim the scope with all this swaying. After a couple bullets, the big dude goes down and we zipline across the gap, giving us access to this lever that opens up the door into the next area. Second verse, same as the first, as we duck behind cover and wait for the helicopter to take out as many enemies as possible. Now, I will admit that I'm basically just chewing on medication throughout this entire encounter, but honestly I would rather lose the meds and bank the ammo than the other way around. My thought process is that I can always retry missions as many times as possible and never have to use a single med, but I can't complete the missions without any ammo. In my brain, that logic makes perfect sense, so hopefully it does to you guys as well. After 10 minutes of straight murder, we hear... which I'm guessing means that the enemies are all taken out. We have to activate these 2 levers on either side of the large double door to open it up, because this is Resident Evil 4.
Take cover!
Thanks. When we get out of here, drinks are on me.
Yeah, hey, I know a good bar.
Yup, can't say I didn't see that coming. I'm just surprised it took so long.
Mike!
I'll make sure you're the next to go, Sadler.
After the cutscene ends, we take a call from Lord Sadler on the ear camera.
Ooh, I'm sorry, Leon.
Sadler, you bastard!
It's nothing to get all upset about. Don't tell me you've never swatted a bothersome fly. In essence, it's the same thing.
What did you say? Insects' life doesn't compare to human lives.
When you've acquired this power, you too will understand.
Guess it's another good reason to get the parasite out of my body.
I wish you luck.
We jump down the nearby hole in the ground to trigger another cutscene showing Leon not really feeling all that well.
Leon, you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely deserve that. I like the dynamic of the parasite slowly taking over Leon as we go along, with the only saving grace being the medication to suppress it. I think this was a solid game design choice and really adds a sense of hurriedness and importance to our missions.
We have to get that parasite out of your body.
Yeah, but before that, I gotta save Ashley.
Fine. Let's split up.
We walk through the door and find ourselves entering what appears to be a prison block. We loot the area like usual and save our progress on the nearby typewriter. The game has done that thing again where it shifts from action-packed, otherwise brightly lit environments to this dark, creepy environment with droning, eerie music in the background. We can hear the faint sounds of a regenerator inside of one of the jail cells, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly where it's at. The sound seems to be coming from the jail cell at the end of the hallway to the left, but it's kind of hard to tell with the game's sound design. Using the infrared scope, we can see the faintest little sliver of its arm sticking out, so at least I know where it's at and we can't get ambushed. We plink away at the parasitic leeches inside of it and finish it off with some TMP bullets. The whole environment in this place is set up to tell a story with pure visuals instead of words. Some jail cells are ripped apart by the experimentations, while others house bloody body bags dangled from the ceiling. There's a definite sense of despair and agony in this place, even though the crimes are long past. We exit out of the jail and find ourselves back outside on the military platform. Enemies are scattered around up here, and the crossbow archers definitely make things difficult by always landing their shots like f***ing Hawkeye. Ammunition isn't as scarce as it was, but I always veer on the conservative side to salvage as much as we can. One of those muscular dudes with a minigun shows up and positions himself in a perfect spot to avoid our line of sight with the third-person camera, yet he can still hit us with ease. This is another one of the downfalls of the game's camera system, and there's unfortunately nothing that we can do about it. He eventually goes down after quite a few mine-thrower darts, but our health definitely felt the effects of his minigun. We take refuge inside of this overhead bunker for cover as we take out some of the enemies around us. Upon pressing this button, a short cutscene plays out showing an enemy taking a keycard from a similar device and preventing us from progressing through the door that I apparently need to progress through. Loads more enemies join the party and we find ourselves in a bit of a pickle here. We decide to use the environment to our advantage by hopping off the ledge and kiting some of the enemies around. I didn't even know this explosive barrel was here, but I'm going to pretend that I did so it looks like a pro move. We loot the keycard off of the body pile and climb up this ladder behind this poor, unsuspecting soldier. Little did he know that he was going to become the next victim of the knock-and-knife method. We slap the emergency card inside of the unit to reactivate the 2 buttons that control the locks on the door. Locks, doors, Resident Evil 4, that should have been the game's slogan.
Locks, doors, Resident Evil 4.
We kill the remaining enemies, activate the 2 buttons locking the door, and push onwards like an absolute weapon. Ignore that.
You'll soon harbor an awesome power. Yet it seems you would rather choose death.
I'm taking Ashley back, whether you like it or not.
Ah, the audacity of youth.
Did he just Doctor Strange me into the ancestral plane?
Leon, now!
Oh, he looks super pissed.
Move!
Let's go!
These explosive barrels are both prevalent and conveniently positioned. Outside this area is the creepy dude in a trench coat just hanging out. There's a note from Lewis on the rocky hill next to him, which basically talks about the safe and practical removal of the plaga. The plaga is apparently removed using a special radiation treatment, but it's extremely painful and may impair the consciousness of the host. If the plaga is fully grown, then the radiation treatment has the potential to kill the host, meaning
you're gonna have a bad time.
We sell our valuables and spend our massive amount of PTAs on upgrading our firearms as best we can. We take our Killer 7 up to the firepower of 35 and the Striker up to a power level of 10, which are pretty significant upgrades for us in the endgame. We push onwards to a nearby door and encounter a few enemies along the way, although nothing we can't handle. We load through a doorway that puts us into the room that Ashley was being held in. Fortunately, Lord Sadler done f***ed off and is nowhere to be seen. We find some much-needed magnum ammo in this small control room, which I have no doubt will come in handy against Lord Sadler. Upon loading into this other doorway, another cutscene ensues.
This hunk of junk? I don't know about this, Leon.
There's only one way to find out. You operate.
You sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
All right. Here goes nothing. How are you feeling?
Like $1,000,000.
I thought you were gonna die. All right. Guess I'm up.
Yes! Yes! More power!
Oh, god damn it, she lived through it.
You okay? I don't know about you, but I think it's time we go home.
It's incredibly far-fetched that this medical equipment was still conveniently set up in this manner to kill the Plaga. I would think you would need to make adjustments to it in terms of where the radiation is being sent and how strong it should be based on the size of the individual, but I'll let it slide, game. I'll let it slide. We find a note describing Lord Sadler's overall mission. He plans on taking control of the Justice Department, the administrative bodies, and the military. He plans to do this to influence the minds of the people who advise the president. Lord Sadler fails to realize that the US president doesn't possess some kind of all-powerful control over the country, but rather is kept in check by multiple other divisions of the government to prevent an all-supreme ruler or dictatorship, so this plan is hot garbage. Also, why try to influence the minds of the people around the president? Why not just send a load of Plaga insects back to the US with Ashley to infect the president himself, in addition to the other pillars of government? I feel like Lord Sadler's plan is going to be about as effective as every Bond villain's plan.
What do you think of these, my man?
Oh, me!
Outside this area is the creepy dude in a trench coat, next to another typewriter. The proximity of these two things to how recent we just encountered them tells me that we are encroaching on the endgame and that I should probably get fully prepared.
Welcome!
I clean up our inventory and save our progress in the nearby typewriter before proceeding down the stairs.
Something's not right. Ashley, you stay here.
Ada!
Better try a new trick, cause that one's getting old. You okay?
I've been better.
What's so funny?
Oh, I think you know. The American
I can't not see this graphical glitch.
prevailing is a cliché that only happens in your Hollywood movies. Oh, Mr. Kennedy, you entertain me. To show my appreciation, I will help you awaken from your world of clichés.
Ada, stand back.
Oh my god, no, go back inside. Oh, that's disgusting. So this is it, the final fight against Lord Sadler himself. What an absolutely horrifying monstrosity he turned out to be, and I would expect nothing less. Unsure on how to approach this fight, we just start chucking grenades to test the waters and see what happens. He doesn't seem to be affected by incendiaries or flash grenades, so they're kind of rolled out. Luckily, we spot a conveniently placed explosive barrel and capitalize on his proximity to it. Doing this drops him into a face plant, technically, and his dangly eye penis becomes vulnerable. We quickly switch to our Magnum and ensure the most DPS as possible in a single shot, which seems to do the trick. We discover this small platform with a lever on it, and it would appear that pressing it swings a steel I-beam over a certain section of the platform. While trying to time it correctly, he just straight up throws a steel pillar at us, but we're not wavered from our mission. We readjust and wait until just the right time to slam an entire stack of beams into him, and then proceed to somehow miss 3 Magnum shots in a row. Explain to me how none of these hit, game. Regardless of this little blunder, we at least have an idea about what we're supposed to do. Upon trying to cross this little bridge, it collapses and throws us into a QuickTime event.
I don't want it.
We find another lever over here that operates similar to the last one, and with proper timing we crash an entire stack of steel I-beams straight into him. This time I make sure that we don't miss our shot. I'm not seeing any other levers in the area, so I think we've spent our ammo, so to speak. What I do spot is another red explosive barrel, but just when I think things are lined up properly, he does a fucking Hulk jump and dodges it. With no more levers or explosive barrels at our disposal, I decide to go absolutely apeshit, balls to the wall, toe-to-toe with him, and hope for the best. We put a ton of striker shots into him and do our best to tank his return damage. We dodge his ranged QuickTime events and throw a frag grenade right at his testicles. With another well-placed Magnum shot, a short cutscene plays out.
Use this!
Oh yeah, Ada is giving us the big boy toll. We pick up the special rocket launcher, frag grenade him one more time for dramatic effect, and place a rocket launcher straight into his stupid f***ing eye.
Sorry, Leon. Hand it over.
Ada, you do know what this is.
Don't worry. I'll take good care of it.
Ada!
Gotta go. If I were you, I'd get off this island too.
She really pushed it.
Here, catch. Better get a move on. See you around.
Very cute.
Okay, so she just dove straight into the helicopter blades, right? I feel like this would have played out a little bit more like this.
Well...
So now the facility is going to explode and we have to evacuate using a jet ski that Ada tossed us the keys to. Now is it just me, or is this final mission eerily similar to how the first Devil May Cry ended? Just for comparison's sake, check out the similarities. Now, on my first attempt, I purposefully dodged this little rock in the middle of the waterway because, you know, it's a rock. Turns out that we're supposed to use this as a ramp, so our long, arduous adventure comes to a blissfully unfulfilling end. What if the game ended just like this? How f***ed up would that be? On the second attempt, we nail the jump and heavily pick up the pace on the jet ski, and I'm dead. The third time's the charm, and we blast our way out of the cavern into the open ocean.
Where are ya?
Leon!
She just had to get one more of those in. God damn it.
Come on. Let's go home.
Sounds like a great idea. Mission accomplished. Right, Leon?
Not quite. I still have to get you home safe.
So, after you take me back to my place, how about we do some, overtime?
Sorry.
Leon, you just earned so many f***ing points from me, you have no idea.
Somehow I knew you'd say that, but it doesn't hurt to ask, you know? So, who was that woman anyway?
Why do you ask?
Come on, tell me.
She's like a part of me I can't let go. Let's leave it at that.
You know, as a content creator trying to make entertaining content for you all, this would be an easy joke for me to write into the script. Like, oh yeah boys, she wants it, or yeah, I've got a dick you can Leon. But I can't express just how utterly repulsive Ashley's character is to me on a personal level. Maybe if I was a young, horny teenager playing this game back in the day when it first came out, then Ashley would have done something for me. But as a married man who just listened to her scream
Leon!
For 16 f***ing hours, she can keep whatever kind of she's wanting to give. So the game ends with us riding off into the sunset and the credits roll. When the credits end, we're presented with an ear camera call with Hunnigan.
Finally, the line's jack-free.
Hey, Hunnigan, no glasses.
Forget the glasses. What's the status of the mission?
I've rescued the subject. We're returning home.
You did it, Leon.
Thanks. You know, you're kind of cute without those glasses. Give me your number when I get back.
May I remind you that you're still on duty.
Story of my life.
I feel like this was some kind of Easter egg or nod to Leon's character from past games, so this was kind of cool, and Hunnigan is not Ashley, so I'm completely on board. We're presented with our final report card for the game, and while it's not pretty, I feel like there has certainly been worse first-time playthroughs. We're also told that we can purchase an infinite launcher and Matilda from the merchant during our next playthrough, and let me just say that I love games that incorporate stuff like this to increase replayability. I myself didn't try these weapons out, but I love the fact that they exist and have surely provided a lot of players with countless hours of fun. So for my final thoughts on the game, we're going to do an old-fashioned pros and cons list. Starting with the pros, the visual art style of Resident Evil 4 is top-notch. The grittiness of the textures and the dark color palette come together to create this really grungy and almost disturbing feel for the game. I realize that the graphics are something to be desired by today's standards, but by 2005 standards, they're quite good. Just like I said in my Bunneh's Perspective of Devil May Cry, it's not how good the graphics look as much as it is the general art style and direction the game took. I'm a firm believer that the tone of the game sets it up for much longer-term success than the actual graphics themselves, and let's just say that Resident Evil 4 nailed this category. The audio design in RE4 is actually quite good for the era it was released in. Enemies can be clearly heard in the direction that they're at in-game. Music scores are used to reflect the general mood or feelings of a level, and the sound effects used during combat and cutscenes seem accurately dialed in. All of this stuff could have been balanced and remastered with the HD port that I played to create this video, but regardless, they seem to have held up over the years. The levels and missions in RE4 bear striking differences from one another, and I feel like this deserves a category of its own. Each area in the game feels different, despite having the same overall art style and oftentimes the same enemies. The village, for example, bears a stark contrast to the castle, while the castle bears a stark contrast to the island, and each of the areas can be subdivided into other unique and memorable locations. This really sets each mission apart from the last, despite the game's mechanics and visuals remaining relatively unchanged. The exploration in the game isn't perfect by any means, but there's something there that has to be applauded. Hidden treasures, backstory notes, Easter eggs, and even additional weapons can be found through exploration that is completely unrelated to the storyline. While the exploration is heavily limited due to the overall level design of the game, I feel like the incentive is still there, and it deserves some praise. The weapon design in RE4 is phenomenal. Every weapon in the game, whether found or purchased, feels and responds differently than the others. Each one is visually, audibly, and impactfully distinct from the rest, taking the otherwise basic combat system from fair to pretty darn good. Enemy diversity is both a shining point and limitation in the game. On one hand, there are dozens of different enemy types with unique weaponry, attack styles, voices, and behaviors, which results in some very interesting combat encounters. On the other hand, some of the character models for these enemies are so distinct that you can easily pick up on them when they're copy and pasted. Take the old dude, for instance. His face and hair are very distinct and make him stand out, so once you begin to notice him, you can't unnotice him. Regardless, the enemy design is still top-notch and very well thought out, especially the bosses in the game. Each one feels very distinct from the others, despite having the same grotesque art style. But with all of the pros come the cons, and you bet your sweet ass I'm going to list Ashley as her own bullet point. Ashley's character is borderline unbearable. She's virtually worthless from a game mechanic perspective, and only adds to the level of jank that the game already struggles with. I mean, she can ascend a ladder, but she can't descend a ladder. What kind of gameplay mechanic is that? Her lines are repetitive, her umbrella ears left me begging for a windstorm, and her voice is about as pleasant to listen to as... The Ashley solo mission also felt very shoehorned in and completely unnecessary. It added nothing to the storyline and didn't grow my attachment to her character in the slightest. I'm guessing that the panty shots were important for the marketing campaign though, and that's probably why they put them in the game. Quick time events. The camera system in RE4 is clunky, to say the least. While the third-person camera perspective isn't bad, the speed at which you can turn the camera is severely limited, which bleeds into all aspects of gameplay. Sometimes the camera gets positioned in such a way that you can't see or attack an enemy, but they can see and attack you. This leads to a lot of unnecessary damage and frustration during combat. The level design in RE4 is very linear, with virtually no alternative pathways or shortcuts. Just glancing at the in-game map is evidence enough that there isn't much wiggle room for personal gameplay choices or approaches. Many times in my playthrough, I wanted to approach a combat scenario using stealth, but I couldn't because the game funneled me directly into the enemies without even giving me the option of choosing my own path. This can feel very restricting at times, although does help to keep the game progressing at a certain pace. RE4 features dozens of evident game mechanics, and what I mean by that is there are certain situations or circumstances that arise that would otherwise not be a thing unless this was a video game. For example, when fighting certain enemies or bosses in the game, it was a very common thing for the escape route to be blocked or locked as soon as the fight begins, and my question is why? Who's controlling the locks on these doors, and why in the world would they unlock the doors as soon as the fight ends? There's no logical explanation for this, outside of it being an evident game mechanic. This can also be seen with the various placement of ammunition conveniently scattered throughout the game. I could certainly rip into these mechanics more, but all in all they were necessary to make the game function in the way that it did. It just feels unnatural. The storyline in RE4 is something to be desired. The entire plot of kidnapping the president's daughter to infect her with an ancient brainwashing collectively intelligent plaga sounds pretty solid, until it's revealed that she's only being sent back to advise him. Yeah, because I'm sure the president is going to take political advice from his obnoxious, annoying, high-pitched, whiny, incapable, insufferable parasite of a daughter with her stupid fucking elephant ears. I fucking hate those ears, Jesus Christ! But as I was saying, the plotline is pretty weak, especially considering they basically sent a single soldier to complete the task. I feel like the kidnapping of the president's daughter would be a little bit more of a high-profile case than sending a single soldier. Also, the plot conveniences were a little bit cheesy, and the interactions between characters felt very forced. And this segues right into the final con of the game, which is the voice acting. Oh, the terrible voice acting. I feel like they tried. I really do. You can tell there was a certain amount of effort being put into bringing these characters to life, and I respect that. But it didn't blend together well in-game. The characters seem distant from one another, like they're not having true conversations in real time or reading each other's emotions properly. Lines feel forced and oftentimes really cheesy. Word choices bounce around from being basic kindergarten banter to well-versed adult conversations, placing the tone and context of verbal exchanges in this very awkward limbo state of, is it good or is it bad? Overall, I found the voice acting to be very campy and awkward, so I had to list this in the cons section. But overall, my opinion of Resident Evil 4 is positive. I can fully understand why this game was such a massive success upon its initial release, and continues to be a fan favorite this many years later. I greatly enjoyed my time playing the game, and I'm so grateful that I have a platform like this to share my experiences and opinion with all of you. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this episode of Bunneh's Perspective. If you'd like to suggest a game for me to feature in this series, then please leave me a comment down below or post it in the channel's Discord server. This episode of Bunneh's Perspective was quite an undertaking, but something that I greatly enjoyed working on and would love to hear your feedback. If you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to leave it a like down below, subscribe to the channel with notifications on to stay up to date on all of my latest content, join the Discord for a community of like-minded woodland creatures, and please keep leaving me comments because they warm my little Bunneh heart. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.